Now the ultimate power in the universe.
Sharing the love, spreading the light in real time. Friday night love stream.
Very happy to have a guy we instantly resonated with. Unbiased and on the fence. I'm talking about Shane C. Robinson. And his purpose is to rise above the worldviews that are designed to separate us so we can unite as one.
Sometimes you have to sort of take a step back, and I think Unbiased and on the Fence is a really, really good title for your show, because you are in the central point when you're unbiased and on the fence. That's what it means. It doesn't mean you're indecisive. It means you are taking the central point and you're seeing the multiple perspectives.
Unbiased and on the fence.
If you haven't checked Unbiased on the Fence, go and check his channel out. You might like it.
This is Dan Hofeld from Talk is Cheap, and you're listening to Unbiased and on the Fence with Shane Robinson.
If this much sincerity enters your life, come to this much. What I know, I know. What I do not know, I do not know. I don't believe anything, I don't disbelieve anything. I'm willing to look at everything. You will become a sensible human being.
Have you checked out our website?
Visit us on the web at uotf.net. You're listening to The Love Stream.
All around the world in real time.
This is Shane with Unbiased and On the Fence. You're listening to the Friday Night Love Stream.
Your calls, your stories, on air. You're listening to the Love Stream.
Sharing the love and spreading the light all around the world. This is Unbiased and On the Fence.
Unbiased and on the fence.
Happy Friday to you guys. Welcome. This is going to be an awesome show. Man, I tell you what, this community is awesome. So we have 3 free giveaways tonight, thanks to one of the viewers that wanted to sponsor a BQH for other people that maybe can't afford it, but we're wanting one. So if you fit into that category, be ready. I'm trying to figure out if we just should have you call in or send an email. I'm wondering, I don't know. Trying to figure out probably the best way to do this. I'll think about it. You guys can suggest something. Maybe 1 email, 2 phone calls. I'm just afraid people might not want to talk, so I don't know. It's a tough one. But yeah, I think that's great, because I know if you were trying to actually manifest a BQH session or the money for one, this could be, and I have no doubts it will get to the right person either. It's just how it works. So yeah, I do want to thank every one of you guys, especially the viewer who decided to get back into this community, because I think it really does touch my heart in a big way, because many of us are struggling and living paycheck to paycheck or money to money, however it comes, and kind of like living by faith. So yeah, I think that was really cool. And all right, so I guess we will figure that in a little bit. Phone lines are open. Maybe do 1 each hour, since it's a 3-hour show. I'm going to give some people time to get in here. I'll tell you what, we should actually probably do, let's see. Okay. Okay. I'll go ahead and do the first one for those that are more of the, I don't know, the type that hop in right away. You're anxious to get here. You're excited to be here. And I got a surprise for you. The first person to email me at that email address and just put free BQH in the subject. That way I have your contact information, and maybe we'll email the other two, or we'll have a email or call in. I'm not really sure. I might have to have an incentive to get a caller tonight, and that might be a good way of doing it. Force one of you lurkers to come out of your box. I know there's a bunch of you guys, and I'm one too. You know, I'll go around and visit other videos, and I will chime in every now and then, but I typically don't. I typically just sit back and enjoy. You know, a lot of times I'm driving or something, so I don't have that opportunity to really chat and drive. That's kind of dangerous, so I can't even read the chat and drive, so. But I can listen, and that's pretty cool. Like, I've enjoyed Eileen and, you know, the guests she's had on, Jean, and and of course I got to see Ronnie and Virginia was on there. That was awesome. Ronnie and I are actually doing a BQH tomorrow. I guess I can say that since you said it on Eileen's program. Excited about that. So let's see. I guess I could start with the little wing makers and go check the email so I can announce that. Let me do that. Can't go wrong with starting with some activating wing makers material. Good stuff, man. You can listen to this for free. There's like 23, 24 chambers of music to listen to. Free on YouTube. This is the 1st through the 9th that I always play. Wow, that didn't take long. We already got our first caller, but I want to announce the winner. Christy Williams was the first to email for the free BQH session. Way to go, you guys. Wow, you guys really, by the time I hit it up, I couldn't believe that so many people had emailed so quickly. So Marcia was a really close second. So let's see. Okay, so I want to bring Hope in. Hope from Minnesota. How are you doing, Hope?
I'm doing well, very well. I guess the first thing I want to say is, since I came out of Christianity and you did too, the closest thing I could see to what church is supposed to be like was in Acts, where people went to different homes. And so I prayed, it's like, because the church wasn't working for me anymore. And so now, like, with all these, like, and you say, like, this is an online community, and it's like I feel like it's church. Yeah. And it's a space of love, and anyway, so praise God for that.
Yeah, I think that all the time. I think we're the body of Christ, but I tend not to say that because some people get turned off by religion, and they will misunderstand what I'm saying as, as being too religious. So, and I get it, but I don't think I've ever left the body of Christ, to be honest with you. I think I was always on this path of being part of the body of Christ. That's what we're doing here. We're connecting people together. And like you said, I love Acts, where, of course, they just gathered together in smaller groups, and there really wasn't, it was just they came together and discussed things rather than it being sort of a hierarchy,
Right. Like now,
like we're doing, yeah. We're having church in here, folks.
Anyway, we are having church. Praise God. Anyway, and I know your mother is hovering around somewhere going, yes, sister, yes. But anyway, so I'm like, oh my gosh, because it's like, I started reading the Bible for myself, and I know I must have had some guide sitting on my shoulder, but that wasn't in my paradigm back then, because I just had question, and I saw the same things you did, and it's like, there's no place in the Bible that says Jesus is going to do the work for us. It's like, forgive. He said, forgive and you'll be forgiven.
Yeah, take up your cross daily. In so many ways. It points to the fact that he's like our big brother that showed us the way.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I was barking up the wrong tree with any churchy people. But anyway, so I got called the highways and byways. He pulled me out of church and said, now you don't need to read the Bible anymore. You don't need to go to any more church services and all that. Just go out and love people who aren't so nice.
Right.
So that's a little harder than sitting in a nice Bible study. But anyway, so
wasn't it Jesus that said that anybody can love their friends, it's your enemies that it's difficult to love. Right.
Yeah. So anyway, you need Jesus for that, okay?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so then, so this is kind of my Mandela story. So I come out of church and had known nothing. Like, I was very Bible. You know how it is. Bible, everything else was the devil. Then I was slowly, he'd say, okay, now read about the Catholic saints. And so I read about them, and they did miracles and all that. And then I started seeing 11:11 all over the place, like in 2009. So I looked up, what does that mean? And I'm like, I read all about it. I didn't understand what the heck these people were saying, but I kept seeing it. Well, then I got opened up that, there's other planets. Well, that kind of makes sense, and how big the stars are and all that. So then, so I progressed on, and then I read about a woman who, like, woke up one day and she was like 6 months ahead of time. She went to bed, and then she woke up, and she had been in a real tough marriage, and all of a sudden she was in this apartment, and it was a different date, but nobody else knew about it. And so I read about that, and then I learned about the Mandela effect, and then it started showing up more in my life physically. Like right at the beginning, I saw a whole lot of stuff, so that it was like, okay, because that, for me, that really proves, like, well, we're clicking along here. We're really moving it along. And I think that I got two theories. Either people that do see the Mandela effect are slowing the whole group down, or
that's interesting.
I mean, you gotta be open to anything, right?
Right.
I mean, it's like we're all deceived. So anyway, I don't mean to be, but that might be. Or I think that certain ones of us have cleared and done the work and are come from a heart space, and so we qualify to decide how we are going to live, what the new earth is going to be like, what do we want. And the other people, it's not really their fault that, whatever the waves and whatever we got going against us, it's like, it's hard enough to, you know what I mean? It's really not anybody's fault. It's rough, and a few of us are, I don't know, stupid or something. We just keep going. But anyway, so then I started, so it's really funny, like you're always talking about, you tell people about the Mandela effect and they actually see it and then they just kind of blank out.
Yeah.
So we were at a Thanksgiving, and my brother was going on and on about, well, thank God somebody brought dressing this year, and they were going on and on about a year of Thanksgiving where there was no stuffing, like turkey stuffing. Well, I've only been to ones where my sister brings for some Scottish kind for her husband, and like my other sister-in-law brings, the regular kind. I mean, like there's stuffing coming out of our ears. And I asked but they go on. Like my sister and my brother were at this Thanksgiving and some of their family where there wasn't this stuffing. And I asked all my kids who are not into any of this, were you ever at a Thanksgiving where we did not? No. I'm like, that's the Mandela effect. And then they just kind of glaze over and ignore me. But anyway, so it's kind of funny. But anyway, so.
Yeah, the stovetop stuffing you're talking about, right? How it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it's craft. It's craft now. It's always been craft. The cheese people.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
They're all, okay, well, whatever. I don't even keep up track. I notice more like when I go places and it's like last week this concrete wall was blank, and now it's got tiled mosaics in it.
Yeah.
And then there was my neighbors, like I know for a fact because they had like a little backhoe kind of thing and they had taken out a tree. Well, I came one day and I looked and that tree was back. So anyway, yeah, I learned not to tell my family about that.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, so I have
places.
Right. Just they're along for the ride. So now, last night I stopped at Redbox, and the movie Isn't It Romantic was finally out on Redbox. And it's about this woman who gets trapped in a parallel universe that's a romantic comedy.
Mm.
And it was such a good, because we can talk about the new earth and how it's going to be, and, it's like, well, you feel happy, like different days you pop into different frequencies and like the colors look different. Well, this one, she was got hit in the head and woke up, and she was in a parallel universe, and it was 5D. It was New York City, 5D. She walked out and she's like, why are all these people being so nice to me? Mm-hmm. And she goes, why does New York City smell like lavender? And she went to her apartment and she put her key and it was the wall. So she moved down a little bit and she found it, and she opened the door, looked in, and it wasn't her apartment. And so she backed out and she's like, wait a minute, it's the same number. She walked in and it looked like it was on, she thought it was like a joke, But
right.
I'm like, oh my goodness. See, now this is really exciting, because now this isn't going to, the news people aren't going to start talking about Mandela. But when it's showing up in popular culture, that's some kind of a bleed through, or like planting, those seeds are getting planted in the regular people.
Yeah. Did you see the movie trailer for the new movie about the Beatles never existing? If somebody could type the name of that movie. Yeah, so the trailer is super awesome. It looks like a great movie, but, this guy's playing this song on the guitar in the trailer. I'm just telling you what the trailer is about. He's playing a song by the Beatles, and everybody's like, wow, that's so beautiful. When did you write that? And he's like, I didn't write that. That's the Beatles, and I can't remember what song it is because I knew all the songs in the trailer, but that's before my time, so I just heard it. It's hard not to write the Beatles, you know what I mean? So he's singing it, and then Yesterday, and all of these different songs, and so he starts recording them, and he makes it real big because nobody's ever heard of the Beatles or any of their songs, and he learned to write them, and he gets famous, and. So it looks really interesting, but it was that same thing when he sat down at the computer and he's like typing in Beatles and it self-corrected it back to Beetle, like the bug, and he's like kind of looking at the screen like, what the heck? And then he looks up like one of the, I guess, John Paul, one of the members' names, and it pulls up the Pope instead of the member of the band. And so he has this moment at the computer realizing that, oh my God, the Beatles never existed. Hopefully somebody knows the name of that. I can't. Oh, is it called Yesterday? Okay, I think it is called Yesterday. Yeah, it's named after the song.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was one part where he's he was in the studio and he's singing Hey Jude, and one of the guys like, you know what, I think maybe it should be Hey Dude. It's like, it's just so funny, and because he realizes, you can't change this classic song, and the other guy's just kind of thinking of like, just for trends or whatever. It should be Hey Dude.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's called Yesterday. Just type in Yesterday movie trailer. I wish I could pull it up and play it for you guys because it's so interesting. But yeah, it's.
So is that like in the theater?
Yeah, I think it's. I think it's either about to be at the theater or still in the theater. I definitely want to see it. Yeah, but it goes right along with what you were just saying. You know what I mean? And I've seen several things like this where shows talking about people that slip into alternate universes or, alternate timelines, this sort of thing. And it was out before that sort of thing when like. I don't know, Back to the Future or something. So it's not new, but there does seem to be an uptick in this sort of idea of, hey, we can just shift into an alternate reality at any given moment and things be different.
Well, this one was really good because it helped me because it was New York. It was all the same people, or it was the same place, but it was just like prettier and fancier and nicer things happened. And she was going around like she was telling people, well, it's different. It's the same place, but it's different. It's not right. They're like, and they didn't get it because they were just kind of. Some people are just going to get grandfathered in, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
Yeah, that's one of the things that just to kind of get back into like what you were originally saying. Are we the ones sort of anchoring the earth back to all of these old memories? That's definitely a way of thinking about it. But on the other hand, it makes you wonder just how people will perceive just a major change. Like if we did shift into 5D and then we're like walking around like, look at this, and everybody's like, what are you talking about? It's always been like this. I'm giving you a hug like it's normal and stuff, like, why are you hugging me?
Yeah.
That's what we do. We hug people around here. And you're like, what? It's always been like that. We've always hugged people. Like you show up at Sunday morning church, I went to a smaller church. I love the smaller churches because everybody knows each other and everybody hugs and everybody's like family. And I love the smaller churches way better than the bigger ones. But the bigger mega churches do break into those smaller cells, which can be happy. It can help, but I just typically was happier in the smaller churches because it felt like you knew everybody and the energy was just better,
Yeah.
That's before I knew about energy.
I'm a big fan of Joel Osteen. He gets a lot of flack from, the Bible versey people, and he goes, well, I throw a broad net, and he reaches so I've heard up to 40 million a month. So, and he has a night, it's a very light worker, like positive, message. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's I've heard that a lot. It's like he's not a preacher; he's more of an inspirational speaker and stuff. And people go to just get their highs, and and it's like, well, that's kind of like it's better than going and being preached hellfire and damnation all day, and that you're going to burn in hell if you don't give to the offering. And
oh my gosh!
Like that, you know what I mean?
Well,
so yeah, people do feel good, and it gets their vibes up.
well, I was raised Lutheran, and so, we said the Apostles' Creed. Well, I got led to go back to, a Lutheran church after all these years, like an old schooling one, and sit through the service and stuff like that. And I was appalled at what the things I was forced to read and confess and speak over my cells of my body. It's like, okay, well, no wonder I got some problems here. It's like, okay, clear, cancel, and delete all those, words I spoke over myself. But anyway.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm looking here. Sherry says, my son thinks Joel Osteen talks to him through the TV. And I'm sure a lot of people, I've felt like that, and you'll see him. It's like somebody's sitting here right now. You just got diagnosed with cancer or something along those lines, and when I imagine that a lot of people felt like they were talking to them, just because there's so much going on and so many people watching. But yeah, I can see, that being a pretty good approach, I guess, because people do feel like, maybe I should turn my life around. Maybe this is a sign and stuff like that. So I see everything is working to good, one way or another.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah. And did you know Joe Osteen is now Joe Osteen with no L?
No.
Yeah, I'm so glad you didn't know about that. Yeah, it's no longer Joel Osteen. It's Joe Osteen with no L in there. Yeah, look it up. It's a trip, man. It's because I'm like, oh my God, I know it had.
Well, that
Osteen.
just happened. That just happened today for me then, because I was looking up Joel Osteen. Oh my goodness.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't realize it until I guess right around when they were giving him a bunch of flack about not using his church for the people that got flooded out or whatever. That's back when I think they started talking about it on YouTube, and I noticed. So what was that, last year, hurricane season?
Oh, I think they got flooded out. They were in the flood. Well, I'm not going to worry about him. You know what I mean? I'm not for and a lot. Okay, so two things that I'm kind of being led to share what I do. So because with quantum physics, the observer affects the outcome. So I intentionally go and watch TV shows, like many, I feel God has led me to watch many popular series, especially old school ones. And then I send out, okay, God, I work a lot with angels, seraphim, cherubim, like I run through all the angel hierarchies and like different Reiki things, and I'm beaming that out to all the people of all time, like whoever's watching quantumly. Okay, so that's one tip. And even old songs too. I listen to a lot of old songs. Well, I'm sorry, the Beatles blown out of the water, but well, and were you talking about the Titanic? Didn't sink too? That's kind of out there a little bit.
No, but they do have more pictures and videos of way back then that I'm like, what? We didn't have these pictures. I mean, I kind of got into that for a while when that movie came out, and I would like try to look into the original story. But now there's all sorts of pictures. I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then the second thing is, and I'm just putting this out there, but I was told that there's a lot of, like all these, like another time I got led to look up revivals. Like the Welsh revival, the Hebrides, like all these miraculous, all Christian revivals. And I got told that there are many prayers, like the energy of these prayers got either hijacked or blocked, like in that they're stuck in time kind of, and that to pray that they get pulled forward and be used, and it would be a move of the Holy Spirit, not led by men, because what would happen is, like, the laughing revival, like it would get tagged onto a human being, and then, all the whatever would go after the leader of the revival and take it out. So that the Holy Spirit was going to be gathering from years and years and years, the prayers and whatever, and the move of the Holy Spirit, and this last one would come. And I think we're seeing it with all these waves that are coming in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening. It's like backlogged, and it's coming forward now, and it's going to wash us out in a good way. In a good way.
It's like the day of Pentecost again. You know what? I've seen this uptick in people speaking light language now. There was one night that the next morning my wife was like, you were like speaking in tongues in your sleep. And I'm like, what? That's weird. You know what I mean? And I've had dreams about it now because I used to back in the day. And I'd actually go for hours into the intercessory prayer during the week and go in there and pray for a couple hours, usually in tongues, and just sit there. And it was almost meditative now that I realize and look back on it or whatever. But yeah, I did a lot of that. And so it's not new to me, but it's kind of coming back up again. And I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because, oh my goodness, praying in tongues, boy, I got a lot of flack for that one. So I kind of, let it go by the wayside, because then I thought, do I want to just, I don't know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me. But then it, it shows up as light language. And I really feel like God, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, is used me to be like a translator, because I came out of the prophetic and the and the gifts of the Holy Spirit, prayer kind of, like your mom. Anyway, the word of faith and all that stuff, and then and it was really sad because I had to I really love Jesus, and I had to let that go, because I had to go and learn and go into all this other, and that, of course, astrology, that was from the devil. Everything was from the devil. Everything, this was from the devil, that's from the devil. It's like, God, I can't. And, he really was short with me. He said, oh, don't you tell me how I can talk to people, And so then I'm like, okay. So then I, and it's like, I'm like, well, for being of the devil, when I sit and listen to God and I get information, all these Buddhists and all these other people that are supposed to be from the devil, they're getting the same message I am. So I guess my mom was right. I'm full of the devil.
Yeah, it's always fear to keep you under control or whatever. That's why when everybody's talking about Ouija boards and all that, I'm like, guys, I've never messed with any of that stuff, because I was raised a devil can get in you or something if you mess with that stuff. And so I just never did. I never had a desire to. Or, knowing my sign, I only realized that in 2017. I'm like, okay, so I'm an Aries, and people told me over the years, but I just disregarded it because it was irrelevant to me, but yeah, it's like, there's so much out there, and so much fear is placed on so many things, but a lot of it's in the Bible. So like seers, or soothsayers, or whatever they go by nowadays, or whatever, fortune tellers, I guess. There was one in the Old Testament where I think it was the Old Testament Saul had gone to try to talk to Samuel, and then when Samuel appeared to the seer, she freaked out and knew who he was. And so there's an example right there in the Bible of it working and freaking somebody out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, one thing too, not to say any, I'm just quoting what the Bible says. What I got shown is, the Bible is written to the Jews. And why are the Jews God's chosen people?
Mm-hmm.
Biblically. Do you know, Shane?
Why are they the chosen people?
Yep.
Because they're from the seed of Abraham, correct?
Nope, because they're stiff-necked and rebellious.
Well, we were taught in church that when we become Christians, we get adopted into the Jewish family. It's like,
Well,
I guess.
well, that's Paul, and I got a little, I don't want to get into all of that because it's
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
water under
I
the
have
bridge.
issues with Paul, too, but, I still see he, served his purpose and stuff. That's why I always tell April, because she loved Paul, and I think, I think we got the Bible. It's exactly what we should have. And I only looked into the Bible, and I found my way out of religion with the Bible. It's just you got to sort of forget what the preachers say and read it for yourself and, unravel all that religion that's been put in there with the spiritual teachings. And you can find your way out. It's just people don't read their Bible that go to church. They just open it to the scripture the preacher's preaching, and that's about all they open it for.
Yep. Well, and then, so, all the rules and stuff like that, they, over and over and over, I think it's in Deuteronomy or something like that. God keeps telling them they're stiff-necked, rebellious people. That's why I've chosen you, because he had to give them all these rules because they're stiff-necked heart. Abraham had Ishmael, and they didn't get a bunch of rules.
All right.
Anyway, and then Jesus came, like it or not, he said he came for the lost sheep of Israel. So you can't take Jesus' teachings and really apply it to just everybody. You know what? It was a specific group. So, whatever. But, I mean,
but I think
it's like love God,
just
love
to chime in
yourself,
on what you're saying for a second.
Yeah.
Because, and I think this is super important because I do this to people. If I'm talking to my Christian friends, I talk to them from a Christian perspective because I spent most of my life there. It's easy to do. I don't say source, I say God. I don't say, something like the Great Spirit or higher self. I'll say Holy Spirit, or I'll just use terms that they're using. And I think that's what we're looking at when a lot of times people misinterpret Jesus as being Jewish in that sense, but he was speaking to them in the language they understood, the Jewish religious language.
Yep. And I feel like for me, one of the things I do is somehow in the spirit world, weave them together. Yeah. Translate, turn it into Christianese, and love them all. I love anybody that's excited about, especially stuff you can't see. I don't even care if it's really the devil, or if it's bad stuff, because technically, I do believe all things work together for good to those who love God. I think it's all working together for good anyway, no matter what. But I mean, it's still making people think about, well, there might be something besides what we just see here, Yeah. And why are we here? What's the purpose and all that?
Yeah. There's a lot of parallels. I don't know if you ever got into the Gnostic text and the text that wasn't included in the Bible that Jesus wrote, but when I found the Nag Hammadi text, and there was all of these writings, because I had been through the Bible dozens of times, so when I found out there was more writings from Jesus, and even though the church says, no, don't look at those are, what are they, pseudo-epigrapha text, or they have some word for it, that's uncanonized scripture, so don't read it. It's not been okayed by the church. But I love Jesus' teaching so much, I'm I've got to check it out, and then I'll make my decision. I was oh my gosh, this is amazing stuff. I can see why they didn't want it in our Bible. It's liberating information.
No, I never, I just couldn't understand. I think I tried reading, the Book of Enoch, and it was
oh, well, it's not all like that. That one's pretty deep.
Okay, so what? Yeah. No, I've never heard of that. So what's the uptick on that then?
So, we have our 4 Gospels that were allowed into the Bible, but I believe John is the most Gnostic out of the 4, and so they read a lot like John when you go read them. But the cool thing is, there was this parable, for instance, it was called the Parable of the Fishes. I loved it because, it's they ask, where's God? And he says, well, let me tell you this parable of the fishes. He says, all the fishes were, swimming around wondering what God is or whatever, or wondering what water is, I'm sorry. And so they swam to the wise fish, and he says, and I'm shortening it and paraphrasing it, but basically it's in water that you live, breathe, and have your being. And I got to that part, and I'm well, that part's in our Bible. What happened to all the parts before that, And I think it was actually quoted by someone else later in the Bible, because a lot of times you'll find quotes. For instance, Jude quotes Enoch. And Enoch's not in the Bible. And Jesus quotes a lot of lot of texts that aren't included in the Bible. I'm like, well, if it's good enough for Jesus, shouldn't it be good enough to put in the Bible? You know, I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer. But I guess the main thing I've come to when I see all these different teachings and how there seems to be so many parallels is that if I was a loving creator, father, God type character, or maybe father, mother, parent, you know, I would find my kids wherever they were. I wouldn't just go to one type of religion, you know. I'd find them wherever they are and reach out to them and hope that they reach back, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, then, like, I had, like, I got told to, like, this is back when I was just Bible-y and Christian-y and stuff like that, like, cut all your ties with the people, like your church people, and he was going to shake my faith to the core.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. It was like, I got so confused, and like, because it's like once you start thinking about it, well, I don't know where this Bible came from. People told me this. I'm just believing what other people, what do I know? And I, you know, I was outside and I was looking at flowers, and they were so pretty, and they were like so designed and sparkly, like in the sunshine, they kind of glistened, and I'm like, okay, I don't know about any of this Bible stuff, and like I'm just all confused and upset and don't know, and because I was so sure before, but I know my body, you know, you cut it, and in 2 weeks the thing goes away and it's all healed, like, and they know a little bit about like the 10,000 chemicals that happen, that, you know. So I thought, well, somebody has made flowers and our bodies that are amazing. So I don't know who did that, but I'll work with you, okay? Well, that's kind of one thing I like about Joel Osteen. Like, I think he might be Starseedy or something like that, too, because he doesn't, like, really talk about God, like, the same way as he calls him the creator of the universe.
Yeah.
And that, I don't think Jesus ever called him his heavenly father or Abba, or, you know, he gave that, but he'll say, but anyway, I don't really know. All I know is, like you say, we're just supposed to love people, and that's a hard enough thing, and put ourselves on the list too, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. A lot of times we have trouble just loving ourselves and forgiving ourselves, and we lie to ourselves a lot too. That's one of the reasons that's one of the main understandings I came to that helped me get out of religion. I'm like, what do I really know from my experience? I know I felt something. I know I felt a presence, because it's the same feeling I feel now. And so I know it has nothing to do with church, just that feeling of love and, you know, tingles throughout your body. And it just feels like there's some kind of heavenly presence there. I've experienced that in and out of the church. And, but all that other stuff, I can't really say, you know, one way or the other, if I'm honest with myself. Do I really trust this? I know it seems like in Daniel, where it says, you know, towards the end of the age, people will run to and fro and knowledge will increase. And I see that happening. I see people getting under all of this religion and all this man-made stuff to get at the deeper truths and things. And so I see it happening, just like the Bible says, you know?
Yeah, well, and then it says, something in there too about like people shine, the ones that are wise or lead others
will shine like the stars or something.
Yeah, something like that. So it kind of reminds me of T. Taylor was saying, was she saying she's glowing, or she's getting little glyphs coming to the, I've heard, I think Michelle Welling was interviewing somebody, and they were like a regular hairdresser or something. Her and a sister or somebody were glowing, you know, and it's kind of hard to explain, you know. Well, I have heard like I think Jesse Duplantis had like a heavenly visitation, and he was shining one time, like he was in the middle of some conference or something like that, and then, you know, going to the elevator and you know, be in close proximity to people, and they'll faint or pass out in the spirit or whatever. So I'm kind of wondering if we are getting cranked up here, but I think everybody is, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I see like people that are not into anything that I am into. They're coming along whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
And they're getting more aware and conscious and kind and compassionate and whatever. And if they knew it, they'd probably put the brakes on and, try and be stubborn. But it's just happening.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? I'm not as hard on even a lot of preachers, any of them that I've interacted with. Like I used to play drums for Mike Murdoch. He's this huge preacher, evangelist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I used to play drums for
I
him
know
weekly here in Tulsa, and and I
yeah,
play with
that's
his son.
the Mecca.
Yeah, it is. That's why my mom wanted to move here. So we moved here.
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah,
Oh,
my
my
sister
goodness,
went there.
yeah.
So and she said we can go to church every night of the week here, and we pretty much did. We went to church all the time, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. So I only say that because I know, like, you can look up stuff on Mike Murdoch, and people are hard on him, like he's a scammer, and he's like, no, he's not. I've spent time with him. He believes what he teaches, and he gets the results of what he teaches. And I've even because I took some of his courses and stuff about how to be smart with your taxes and to write off if you're going to meet somebody and you're talking about, well, he was talking about religion or Jesus or whatever, but that's a tax write-off. Use it, you know what I mean? And he said, be smart about, you're stuck here, you have to live by their rules, but take advantage of all this stuff. And it wasn't that he was a scammer, he's just smart about how to play the game while you're in it,
Yeah.
And so... But he wasn't a scammer. I can tell you, he really meant what he said,
No, I think all those, maybe there are some, I don't know. I don't know what goes on behind, but I can guarantee you the dark forces are going after them, harder than the rest of us.
Yeah.
But, well.
So you know Dave Roberson, too?
Is he that one that's the vet?
No, well, maybe. I don't know. He kind of reminded me of the lion on The Wizard of Oz, sort of. I'd always laugh because he'd walk around in the spirit and he'd have this look on his face. And anyway, I got to hang out at his house and play with his kids. They were older or whatever, but they were...
Well, it sounds really familiar, but, I've been, like, I had to kind of separate myself. It was really sad to give up Jesus, but... You know what I mean? And I didn't really understand it. I just knew, okay, I'm getting thrown out in the world, and you can't be all churchy, and you know what I mean? You have to, like, kind of toughen up, and if somebody swears, you just got to roll with it. And you can't, it's like universe, like you said, I did change my, if you need it, the universe sends it. Well, that's God will provide, so anyway, so now it's kind of nice then after a while, after I got the gist of all and learned about galactics and like, cause light workers and energy and all that stuff. Well, Christians don't get to, do that. We just have to trust God and he's going to take care of it all. And that was a nice, safe place. But now, when you move into your mastery and have to know that you're creating and, and I like Cynthia Sue Larson. I was just re-listening to those shows you had with her and Eileen.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's got a great spirit about her.
Yes, and I really like her how she blends the Christianity thing. Like, God's in charge of everything, right. and we're working at His behest. Because I think one thing with that I can get in trouble with is, which is unsettling for me, is if I don't feel like there's somebody else I can go to if I'm having trouble. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But knowing that there's the Heavenly Father and there is somebody. Now, He does want you to step up and take, charge and, command your thoughts and, know what you're doing and stuff like that. But, you know what I mean? We're under authority, too, like that. Like Jesus said with the soldier that got the miracle real quick.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting times to be alive, and it's, we're starting to realize that we're working for the same team, even though we don't realize it. You know what I mean?
I got a question for you.
Sure.
So now the end times, because I was big into the rapture, boy, get me out of here, you know.
Right.
And then it was like I was reading what Jesus said and what Paul said. Jesus said at the end, he's going to send the angels, and they're going to pluck out of his kingdom the tares.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's going. Jesus
Right.
says it's the ones that Paul are causing people to stumble. But Paul says that the church gets raptured out.
Right.
So I was just wondering what somebody's going or what. Like maybe that's, I don't know. So
I think it depends on what.
whoever-
Well, from the fence, I can tell you, it looks like that whatever perspective you're looking at it from is what's going to determine whether you go. Because, I mean, I think that might even be a little hint at the fact that 3D and 5D are in the same place. It's a frequency change, not a geographical or location change. And there's even a parable that Jesus said that was like that. It was, let the weeds and the grain grow up together, because what happens is at harvest the actual grains will heavy the stems, and they fold over or bend over, and they leave the tares poking up. So it's easier to just go and pluck out the tares, because they're sticking up above the heavy grained crops or whatever. So that's what we're growing up together. But and when it's just thrown into the fire and burned, and that feeds into the whole fear-based hell thing.
Harsh, don't they?
But I think when you think of a crucible, for instance, where they put in the metals and they purify it. It's a purifying process, and when you realize you don't really die, that's like one of the Mandela effect changes that people freaked out about, and I even freaked out at first. But it said, if somebody didn't, I forgot, it was Jesus speaking, but he basically said to bring them before him and slay them if they didn't get what he was saying. I'm just paraphrasing it right now, but if you remember the Mandela effect change, he says, bring them here and slay them before me. Now that sounds like real violent and everything, but on a deeper sense, if you have the spiritual understanding to realize that if somebody gets held back and they don't see the truth, their flesh got in the way. So slaughter it. Get it out of the way, because that's what is holding them back. The meat suit, not the person. You're not going to kill the person. But it does. It sounds real violent. So, and I was shocked for a while, but then like one day it hit me like, oh, that could totally be what it's saying.
Well, and I think we have to realize how far we've come in 2,000 years. And then I was led this last week to read Elijah and Elisha.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh my goodness, Elijah killed, it says that Elijah killed those prophets of Ahab and Jezebel.
Mm-hmm.
Or the false prophets. And it's like David, he killed tons of,
Oh, yeah. Even Bathsheba's
really,
husband, he sent him out on the front line so he could be with his wife. I mean, that just goes to show that people have done some horrible things, and I think David was a man after God's own heart. So, God loves us regardless.
So we come
We're
a long
perfect.
way.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything else that comes to me.
If anybody else in the call is wanting to chat, if you would hit *2 so your hand gets raised, and I know that you're not just listening. Some people listen to save on their data. Okay, somebody raised their hand there. But yeah, it was okay. It was great talking to you, Hope. I love talking this old stuff, the church stuff, because many of the people that
we
I
all
would
are going to love each other.
Yeah. But most of the people that I grew up with talking about that can't talk freely and openly and lovingly about it. It always turns into a debate. So I tend not to talk about it, but I think we have more in common than I realize.
Yeah, well, and then I have heard that I don't know, the Christians that get raptured, because we know that their minds, and I was there, and trust me, when I first got saved, I needed to have everything shifted, because what was normal in our life was not healthy and forthright and whatever. It was underhanded, sneaky, we didn't get caught. You know what I mean? So I had to have a whole rewrite, and I really needed just the Bible. I mean, I don't know how many years I just sat and listened to the Bible and watched TBN, like 20 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Raising my kids.
What's the big pink hair lady? I can't even remember her name now, but yeah.
Oh, Jan Crouch.
Yeah, Jan Crouch,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I used to have it on all the time. This is how Christian I was, you guys. I mean, for you guys that doubt and you're like thinking, I'm of the devil and all this. I got satellite in my home, and it was called the Angel Network on whatever dish or whatever it's called. So I actually had a satellite put in there and just had Christian programming. That's how religious I was.
Oh, that's right.
Do you remember that?
I remember that.
The Angel Network, they called it. Yep. Yeah. Yep. I actually had that.
God.
So anybody that says I'm just, I wasn't in as deep as you think or whatever, I was in as deep. You can go listen to my album and tell how deep I was into it. And so.
Yep. No. You had no choice in Tulsa. I don't think.
Yeah.
The air there is just that.
No, I was 15 when we
anyway,
moved here, so yeah.
I don't know what I was talking about. Okay, well, I guess I'm done then.
Okay,
But
thanks
anyway,
for calling in,
well,
Hope. Don't be a stranger
It
now.
was
You got a phone.
lovely. Yeah, I know. Praise God. Okay. Bye-bye. God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye. Okay, gonna go back to the phone line. Let's see, we have a 615 area code. You're live on the air. Who am I talking to?
Hey, this is Sonny.
Sonny, how's it going, man?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Is it SONNY?
SUNNY. I'm the one that came in cursing and didn't know.
Oh, okay.
I have 3 points. Number one, I wanted to know, because I came in late to the Mandela effect concept, I wanted to know about how that got started, if you could give me any information.
Just the whole Mandela effect in general?
The entire concept, because I've caught up on some of the pieces of it where people say that the Bernstein Bears is differently spelled and all this different stuff.
Yeah.
And I do remember being a kid going to high school in like 2008 and thinking Mandela was dead. And I was just wondering if that could have possibly been a disinformation campaign or a psyop. And then when he actually died, people caught on to it like that. That's kind of been my perspective.
Yeah, and I've often wondered about the actual name, the Mandela effect, because they've named it after the one that I had doubts about that actually being an actual Mandela effect. I don't know. It's not one for me personally. So for those of you that remember him dying and, could it have been they faked his death or something along those lines? But if you look at history now, it looks like, that never happened. So I guess it's
right.
classified as, but I heard Art Bell on Coast to Coast around 2001, and I've got this clip somewhere, but you can actually look it up. But Art Bell says he was getting tons of emails saying that, hey, Mandela's alive, and we thought he died. So they found out, that was like early 2000s when that happened. Now the term Mandela effect came from Fiona Broome around, I guess, 2010 or 2011, so that's when they actually started calling it that. But I've come across a lot of people that have been seeing this happen their whole life. And one example for me personally is I remember leaving church and with my dad and us going to McDonald's, MAC. Now I didn't buy this one at first, but somebody recreated the logo of McDonald's because I just thought it was McDonald's, And when I saw it, it brought back that nostalgia of leaving church and seeing it with my dad back when I could barely read, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh my gosh, I definitely remember McDonald's at this point. And I always wondered why my dad called it McDonald's. I'm like, it's McDonald's. Why do you call it McDonald's? You know what I mean? But basically, it's whenever something that you remember one way appears to have never been that way. So for me, the thinker statue had his fist to his forehead. I had a statue as a kid. I know the fist was to the forehead. And then one of my favorite shows had that same statue in the beginning of it. So I had all of these things around this thinker statue. And then I find out that he's always had it under his chin. He's never had it on his forehead. And I remembered the under the chin version. I thought somebody recreated it and tried to be a little different or something. But so yeah, like if you look at the JFK assassination is really a jaw dropper for me, because I remember 4 people in the car, but now it appears it was always 6, and the film is in color. So there's so many. There's actually tens of thousands of changes.
Well, I would just beg the question then. Number one, could it be that we didn't have all the information on whatever particular subject was what we were talking about, and they might have released some disinfo back then at the jump, and then something else came out? And number two, why, if it's not legit, like if it's not like what everybody's thinking it is, where it's like a timeline merge or something, why would there be what reason would there be to fake something like this to get everybody talking about it, other than just to, give them a false rabbit trail when there's real things that people should be researching that are truth seekers?
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point, man. And this is sort of gets me into where I ended up going more, trying to view it as, could it be a positive thing? Because when I first looked at it, I'm like, if somebody could change reality like this, why would they change a logo and not put money in their pocket or use it to benefit from the change? Why would they change things that are so tiny that most people don't even notice it happening or whatever? And that's what sort of made me consider maybe this is a positive thing, because with the thinker, I had it. I know it's changed. With the lion and the lamb scripture, I knew that scripture so well, and now it's the wolf and the lamb. And there's so many, I can't say I'm 100% on all of the things that people present. It's like, yeah, I could remember it that way, or maybe not. And there was little things like now or laters, the candy, I ate them all the time. Now they're now and laters. And
I remember.
Do you remember now or laters?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're never been now or laters, man. They're now and laters, have always been now and laters. Another one that tripped me out was Funyuns. Now it's spelled Funyuns. It looks like Funyuns. And I remember it being spelled like Funion, like onion, like Funyun.
But could not have just changed it,
Right, but now you look at the logo history and it's always been that way. And if you look at,
who has an old bag of Funyuns to confirm?
Right, that's a good point. But there's old, like for instance, do you remember the Volkswagen logo when they added the line between the V and the W a few years ago?
Dude, I'm born in '89. I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, I remember a couple years ago, I'm driving, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that's a V and a W on the VW logo, and I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, all these years I've lived, and I had no idea that was a V and a W. I'm glad they added that line in there. Well, then, and I didn't know nothing.
I would have to see a legit old school VW and then compare it to what it is now. Like, I don't know. Like, all I know is there's Google pictures,
Oh, yeah. But I've seen, there was this one at the flea market that was all rusty and stuff, and I went over to it, man, and it's got the new logo, and it looks aged. It looks 40 years old, you know what I mean? I'm like looking at it like, oh, my God. And at the time when I realized the Mandela effect, I worked at the flea market, so I would walk around and see old Coca-Cola signs and stuff that, like, they were old and rusty and vintage and stuff, and they would have the new version without, with the dash in it up high and stuff.
Right.
So I've seen things in person. Probably another big one.
So if the Mandela effect is legit, what is general consensus on it? How is it a good thing, or how is it an effectual thing? Even not even good. It could be bad or good. Like, how is it effectual? How does it affect everything?
So this is where it came up for me, and I started to consider maybe it was a positive thing, because it seems so pointless at first, and it's like, what are people just toying with people or whatever? But I was reading this Dolores Cannon book, and she did this hypnosis session where this guy went and he was he was listening in on these two different higher density, we would call them aliens, but they were really like us, but just more advanced, light beings, having a discussion about humanity. And they had the idea to make physical changes to our material reality, to wake us up to the fact that reality is malleable. It can change. And so I don't, where a lot of people will go the fear route with this and say, the devil's doing it and just different things like that. I don't really go that route. I don't go the route of the multiple timelines like some of the people that remember it the other way have jumped into this timeline. I feel like this is edits, just like in that Dolores Cannon book, because they didn't mention the Mandela effect. This book came out before this was a trend. So I'm reading this old book and I'm reading about it. Go ahead.
So it's like a way to prove that with God all things are possible, and you know there's hope for even if you have like a debilitating disease or whatever.
Absolutely, man. It's a way to wake us up to the fact that once you consider this could be a benevolent force doing this, and this benevolent force can change reality right in front of you, and nobody notices it. It can change your reality.
That's cool too, because you know, like a lot of people that are onto this, I've noticed, are people that are really not down with religious stuff, like, because you know a lot of people have been indoctrinated and then they rebel against the church because either the church has been a bad representation of love, which is, you know, God is love, so they claim to be a representation, and then they got scandals and, you know, greed
and all this judgment.
So
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
Yeah, and you know what? And just me personally, it really woke me up, man. I was like completely left brain. It's like if you couldn't prove it scientifically or in an equation or some kind of experiment, I didn't believe
God
it.
said, okay, I'm about to change like
Right.
30 things from your past.
Yeah, and you know what? When you get in and you try to figure it out, you realize that you either have to take the cop-out route and say, hey, CERN did it. I don't understand what CERN's doing. Maybe they did it. Maybe I'll stick these two things I don't understand together, and bam, I've got a solution.
CERN hasn't been around that long.
Right. Yeah. They've actually been around a lot longer now since, I mean, I didn't know that they were around back in, I think they came about in the 60s or 70s. So they have been around.
Where all our tax dollars were going to this global fund that is CERN.
Yeah. And, you know, and some people have the legitimate idea that maybe they're trying to cause some counterfeit ones. I've seen other channels putting out like just a whole bunch of changes that I don't know.
I'm of that ilk, man. I believed it was a disco campaign just to distract people that were seeking truth, because there's a lot of truth to be found.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it's not pretty for the people that are hiding it.
Mm-hmm. No, and you can get stuck in a rabbit hole for a while, and then, you know, you're not being effective in your own life, you know.
I'm the type that I'll barrel through a rabbit hole until it comes out on the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one thing.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing that I've realized once I looked at this positive, and I had my sort of spiritual awakening with this whole thing, and had to get driven back to my right brain and consider maybe something supernatural happened, and this was a loving thing from a creator that's just trying to wake up humanity. Once I did that, and I started talking about that, then all of a sudden all these people came, and you know, all these people in the chat, loving people that want to change the world. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a divine gathering of these loving people that are non-judgmental. They just want a better world, you know? And I'm like, I felt like I was part of something bigger, and I've resonated with that whole thing this whole time.
A pure catalyst.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So while it's benign, it's like little changes, and it's like, it's probably easy, you know, with the internet nowadays to fake a bunch of stuff with Photoshop and all that stuff.
Right.
You know, people can actually see statues and things that's changed in there, you know, or people have noticed changes on their car. Right. Yeah. You can't Photoshop memories, and you can't Photoshop the logo on your car when you come out and it's changed.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
There's been some that have blown my mind, and I'm like thinking, like, what? Even if this is divinely inspired, like, what is the point? And I didn't get it. I thought it was just a deception. I'm like,
right.
What is going on? Companies. I know there's lots of like cabal, like global elites that, you know, control brands and control these different companies and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what if they're just in a big old joke on people and, you know, all that. So.
Oh, totally, man. Yeah, I felt the same way. Yeah,
that
I've
was
considered
my
everything.
Mandela effect. I've never been a big subscriber or denier. It kind of amused me, and I've seen good and bad come from it. Like, people dividing over, people uniting.
Yeah. And I've I love to look into it. I love to see new changes and stuff. But for me, it was an alarm clock. It was a wake-up call. And for me to just focus on the wake-up call instead of what I'm getting awakened to is, you know, counterproductive. I wanted to move beyond that and see, well, where's this leading me? And so I've you know, I'll still cover stuff from time to time, but I'm not like a Mandela Effect channel at this point.
Okay, cool. Let's squash that. Number 2,
okay.
I want to know your opinion on the law of one, and the way I interpret it is like everybody's one, everybody's like this big glob. Now, where are the personal boundaries? Where is like you got your backyard and I got mine?
I don't think it's like see, that's kind of that's where you're coming from is the personal point of view. I think it's really just saying that.
I take offense to the law of one people that say, like, everything is one, we're all one. And I'm like, okay, I get we're all human, but there's got to be, like, boundaries, you know? Like, if you disrespect mine, I don't want to be around you. Like, I'm not just, like, all foo-foo with it.
Right. Well, you know what? How I view it is, like, if you can imagine God is the ocean, and then we're all drops of that ocean, that would be probably...
But that's extending into everything. I don't see where I'm at if I'm a drop in the ocean. I'm just a part of a glob.
No, not in the ocean. We're just pieces of the ocean that's been taken out of the ocean. So we're not still in the ocean. The ocean is God, and we're little drops that come out of it. Some people's water gets moldy, some of it gets stale or stagnant, and not everybody's water is pure. You wouldn't want to drink everybody's drop, you know what I mean? So, yeah, there is some differences in those drops, but the fact is that we all came from that ocean. That is God. We wouldn't breathe or be alive without it.
We shouldn't discriminate, and we should treat everybody with divine namaste. Is that what the law one basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more along those lines rather than, you know, I'm going to come take your stuff because we're one. You know?
Right. I'm better than you. All that crap.
Right. No, I think it is. It's like a leveling of the playing board, so to speak. We shouldn't have people starving on the planet and then some people riding around in a... Yeah. Like a golden chariot riding around as the queen.
Hey,
and, you know.
I am a Donald Trump supporter, and I fully support divine socialism. If it's going to be divine and everything's perfect, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think...
Number 3. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think, you know, and I gave Obama a chance. I think everybody should be given a chance. They're in a position of power, and we should be sending them our loving support.
He's representing our country.
Yeah, if he makes a bad mistake, it's going to hurt us all, right? So why are we hoping he fells, right? Why do people hope he fells? It's like, you know, if he's running your country, you would think you would want him to succeed regardless of your political party or biases, you know.
You better pray for him. If you're supposed to be namaste, golly, man. See, that's another thing I run into in the spiritual communities is like people that just, they're all about this love and tolerance until there's somebody they don't like. And it doesn't have to be the president. It could be just somebody in the group. And it's like, you can see that ego just pops right out of your forehead. Like, come on,
Absolutely, man. I was just talking about that, man, because it's like even within it's so, the sense of us and them and the separation is so pervasive that you even see it in the so-called enlightened communities where it's like, well, we're going to have our smaller group of the super important people, and then, you know, they're not quite awake enough, and it's like, why are we dividing? Why, you know, this whole unbiased and on the fence idea is the fact that once you get out of those groups, everybody's equal, and there's no agendas to push on anyone else. It's just like, love that person, you know?
Right. Cool.
What was the third thing?
The third thing was, why are you into what you're into? And I don't even claim to know what you're into. That was just my third thing, and I was just generalizing. Why are you into this? Whatever you're into. What got you into this?
That's a great question, man, because I never could have found my way here. You know, I reached this point in my life where I had did all this truth seeking, and I traced religion back to the ancient Sumerian stuff, and then that went into the Anunnaki, and then the more you dig into the Anunnaki, then it goes off planet, off to their world where you can never find your answer. And I kind of went into this deep depressive place where I just felt like everything I'd been told was a lie, which isn't far from the truth, but I don't know, man. It just felt like, what's the meaning of all this? It was sort of like the book of Ecclesiastes where he says everything's just so meaningless, and I felt that so strongly. And then, I don't know, I just started doing my channel just to kill time, basically, because I just didn't know what else to do. I couldn't talk to anybody in my real life. You know, everybody, I was just an outcast.
Huh.
Yeah. So that's, and then I started running into other people like that, too. And here I am. And a lot of my channel has just been me going, like I went through the Law of One for a while. I covered a lot of their stuff, and because it really resonated. I thought it was really cool. And so some of my first videos in 2017 were when I came across Dolores Cannon, the Law of One, and then found that all of these people were talking about the same sort of human raise in human consciousness from different perspectives. You know, you got the Christians that talk about a rapture, or you know, the maybe more New Age community that talks about ascension. The Law of One talked about what they call the harvest, which kind of ties in with Jesus's terminology that he used in the Bible, you know, the harvest time or whatever. So I realized that there was this common thread going through all that, and that's really just following that has led me to where I am now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I won't make the assertion that I'm in the same boat as you, but if I'm not, I'm right next to you in my own little boat. So.
Right.
Talk to you, man. Nice show. I've just caught on to this channel. I just subscribed a few days ago.
Oh, awesome, man. Well, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, have a good one, buddy.
You too.
Let's go.
You're listening to The Love Stream.
Unbiased and on the fence.
Alrighty. Let's see. If you're in the call and you want to talk, if you can hit *2. That way I know. But right now, email me. Let's see. If you want to receive a free BQH session, paid for by one of our viewers, thank you so much. I'm going to go check my emails right now, really fast. And if you were trying to manifest, if you don't have the money for BQH and you were trying to manifest one, it's been paid for and you've done a great job. So, email me and we'll see what we can do. Okay, going to go back to the phone lines. 405, who am I talking to?
Oh, hi there. It's Carrie. How are you doing?
Hey, Carrie, how's it going? It sounded like you said Sherry, but I recognized your voice.
No, it's Carrie.
Yeah. Carrie Camp, welcome.
Hi. I was so excited to hear Sonny saying he just signed in and just learned, and I was happy for you that his questions he asked, and it's a sign of more people becoming aware, and he didn't sound like a very old person. I love to hear young people becoming aware. Is what I was trying to go with that information.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The kids nowadays, and you know, he didn't sound like a kid, of course, but I mean, just you can really see it progressing from our age.
Yeah.
What I figured out at 40, I see kids figuring out at 20 now, and you know, I'm sure Sonny was somewhere in between there. So, yeah, he seemed very aware and awake of what's going on, and even realizing that, you know, we can be one, but, you know, we do have our individuality. And I don't think we ever lose that.
Before, I have found you through listening to Alex Lowe, and it was during that time that when I first introduced to you that I even heard about the Mandela effect. I had no idea what that was. I had to Google it and see, what is that about? And so then it started catching on, because what's funny about that is that I noticed those, you think like, is that always been that way? I mean, you do that self-talk, and then when somebody else talks about it and then it's really a thing happening, you don't feel so like, oh, it's not just me. That's really
Yeah. And you know, the one thing you talk about all the time that I don't know if you knew it switched, is the HIPAA. Did you know that it used to be HIPPA and now it's HIPAA? And you know, I said that.
I started to look that up. Yes, that is true. And I don't know when, and I would love to at some point identify that very thing. It's when it changed and why.
Yeah, Dustin figured that out when I said something. In fact, he knew what the acronym stood for. And he goes, "Wait a minute, it was HIPAA," and then he said what it used to stand for. And I'm like, "Well, it's now it stands for this." Apparently, I'm glad he remembers it. He needs to write it down before he forgets it, because apparently it's never been that way. So what did he memorize there? You know?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing about that, and you know what? I don't want to go don't let me go 17 seconds past this one, because right now I'm trying so hard to put that on the shelf, because I feel like I've planted a seed and it's got to grow. But let me tell you, all the stuff I've been going through and everything, and so today, and listening to Luna and the energy thing that's going, that we're in a huge wave right now and all that good stuff. Well, this is hilarious, and I want you to know I got a hold of it before it got a hold of me. But I get this phone call, and it's from an attorney's office. And so I think it's the attorney I sent all of the HIPAA stuff to. So I'm like all tuned in to oh good, this is it, She says who she's from. But then she goes into this speech that she was from Publishers Clearinghouse and that she was the only attorney authorized to write me this check for this amount that I won. And I had entered a long damn time ago, but I don't remember even when. I used to do that a long time ago, but so I'm thinking, gosh, when did I do that? Last time I thought I did that was like 2014. Could this really be real? So I'm saying, is this real? Oh, yes, this is real. Sit down. I'm going to tell you how much you won. And so she told me I won $500,000. And then she said, do you live with anybody? And I said, well, yeah, I live with my husband. Is he there? And I said, no, he's at the dentist. And, well, when will he be there? And I said, why do you need to know? And she said, because for your safety, because we're going to have someone deliver this Monday. And I said, now, what attorney's office are you with? And she told me again, I can't even remember the name of it. It all sounded hinky, but you just think like, oh, my word, what if it was true, So she says, well, I need for Jeff to be there for me to tell you whatever she was supposed to tell me, which for my safety. Now, this is getting weirder all the time. So I said, well, he'll be back probably about 1. So when I got off the phone, I Googled, because she said they're the only attorney's office that works with. So I Googled what attorney's office works for Publishers Clearinghouse, and immediately pops up all of these warnings and spams, and they're on the rampage. What they do is they tell you won $500,000, and then they ask you to pay $800 in taxes to get your check, kind of thing. But so they did call back when Jeff was here, and Jeff was like, "Okay, like where's the money?" And she hung up right away. She didn't even listen. He was like, "Oh yeah, right," But I knew as soon as they said that it's gonna cost you money to get it, that it's a fraud. But for Jeff, I mean, maybe 30 minutes, I was thinking, do you know, if I won that money, I could do whatever I wanted. So I needed to think of everything I wanted to do, which would be immediately leave Oklahoma. But then you think about that. What all would you do if money wasn't an object? I'd go to Quantum University. I'd find out. I'd just do as much education. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. But you have a moment of like, if you could put yourself in the shift to that excitement level with your thoughts. That's how you get through, and that's a bad example to use about shifting, but I'm just saying those moments of wondering if money wasn't an object. And I'm going to interrupt myself because this is what I'm very blessed. I go to a Christian counselor here in Stillwater, and I visited her day before yesterday, and she taught me something I want to share because I think it's a neat thing. But it's about shifting, about learning when your molecules of emotions, when you're in stress, when your body's telling you, I'm frustrated or upset or whatever, the negative feeling that you're tense. But she was walking through a 5-step grounding method. And for me to ground, I go outside and sit in my hammock. But she gave a really good exercise, and I wanted to share it. It's probably common knowledge to most people, but nothing's common knowledge to me. I forget it from one day to the next. But the deal is because if you're outside, you think of 5 things that you see. And this is to get in the now. You look around and you look at 5 things that you see. And then you look at 5, well, you don't look at it, you listen for 5 different noises. You just listen. And then you feel how you feel. And 5 feelings. I mean, just like how beautiful the blue sky is. But it's a practice to consciously get you grounded where you are thinking only those thoughts to shift out of whatever emotional struggle or conflict that you just go through to realize the importance of what is important. Your health is the most important thing, not the stress, and learning to walk through the degrees of stress that put strain on your body. Like, well, that's the key to survival, is learning how to process your molecules of emotions, which that I sing the song about all the time. But I'm just saying that I think I was just calling in today to say that walking through the poison transition thing, the mercury removal, is really, really rougher than I anticipated. The sweats, the headaches, the ringing in the ears, it's all been accelerated, but I have to believe that it's all for the good. And because each day I get a little bit more, I practiced the piano yesterday for a little while. And so, but I'm getting more focused each day, and I'm very, very blessed. I'm on a clinical trial with a CBD company that I believe is going to help expedite this detox situation. So I truly believe God's in control, and I will never give up. I'm determined as hell, and it's slow going, but I'm giving myself a break as far as not expecting too much of myself, because I get real disappointed that I don't get more done. But I can't move forward with headaches and the nauseous and everything I'm going through physically is weird. I just hate it, but I get it that's part of it.
It's got to be difficult for people that's having health issues to distinguish between what's just their health and what are these so-called ascension symptoms, because that's affecting so many people that don't have the other health issues. So, it's more than that. So, yeah, it's and I feel bad for people that aren't, listening to this, and they're just kind of stockpiling all of that together, and like, oh, I feel horrible, I've got all this going on, and they don't realize that there's two different things that or more that could be going on.
Exactly what you just said, because I want you to know that when I listen to you, and I feel so bad, all I remember is the shift. I want to say Sherry, isn't it, that talking shift with you? When you guys
Michelle,
go into Michelle, I'm sorry, Michelle. I'm so bad with names, it's a memory issue. But what my point is that I do listen to you guys, and by doing that, the things that you talk about is stuff I'm walking through myself, which helps me understand that it's common and not abnormal. And not necessarily common. I'm not alone in it, number one, but it's that thing about being different. It helps when you're not completely different. There are other people in similar energies that it's helpful to relate. It's on that line. Let me just say this about that. The sweetest thing, this counselor lady is so nice, but her saying to me, she understood how I get excited when I learn something. I want to share it with other people, and her explained to me that she got that about me, that's what energizes. That's what makes me tick, is to be able, like when I read something new and information, and I didn't understand that that's what all the light subject is about, that's what Ascension's about. It's about knowledge. It's about information. And when you learn stuff, it excites you. And I want to share that. I want everybody to be excited. I want all these books to be in the libraries. I want everyone to learn it. But, it's so weird how people are about books and about learning new stuff and about information. And this shift, this paradigm that we're in is it's the energy is like a sludge of the third dimension of people not wanting to budge out of the box, and to the ones that are like, well, wait a minute, it's okay to be different, and no, I don't have to believe the same way you do, and no, I don't have to take those drugs just because the doctor said. You don't have to do what people say you have to do But, I know we got rules and yada, yada. We got boundaries. We got to do certain things. But there's a line somewhere that somebody's crossing over.
Right. Well, I'd say, just chiming in with and it kind of goes along with what you're saying, but I'm seeing in the chat where, who was it? Oh, it was Sonny that was, or actually it was Bruce that had a comment. I think the fact that we're all here, I mean, haven't you noticed, like, with our group, when you look at other people, there's just people that just don't really, they just go with the flow. They're just sort of, they work their jobs, they try to pay their bills, they just try to survive and all of that, but they really don't have any interest beyond that to try to figure out why we're here, what we're even doing here, what we're supposed to be doing, where we're headed, and just all those questions that pop up in our mind. And I think that the simple fact that you're here and not just, I don't know, watching mainstream media or something, shows that you're making progress and that you're on that road. And that gets back to what you're saying with just our group in general,
Yeah. Well, in just having a source that is a similar, a place to say it's okay to be different.
Yeah.
And that does.
Now we're the different group, though, right?
Right. Yeah. But, sorry, I got a frog today.
Oh, no problem. April's wanting to know how the piano playing went.
Well, I was just typing very slow right there, and I didn't get it hit, and I just what's funny is I found an application, this was just yesterday, where the guy uses the concept 1 through 8 instead of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Mm-hmm. And here's a funny, retarded thing. I'm sorry to say. I don't mean to say it like that, but something I did myself. But I ordered the little roll-up keyboard that were portable, where I could set it wherever I wanted to. I've got the stand, the Rock Jam keyboard with the stool, but I just haven't made myself learn it. The whole thing is too complicated for me right now. So I thought that if I just did this little, but it was a color-coded one. And so the book comes color-coded, doesn't say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but refers you to a explanation, another source, where I stumbled upon a professional piano player teaching with the concept 1 through 8. And I think I could grasp that concept better than the A, B, C, D, F, G. But then again, if you look at different music books, and one's color-coded and the other one's A, B, C, and the other one's 1, 2, 3, then it's so hard to figure out, how do I want to learn this with my fingers? Which numbers am I going to assign my fingers? Which letters? Right. So I'm overcomplicating it, as usual. That's just my ADHD mind, trying to simplify it. But I think what I'm going to do is erase everything, because I really like this one guy that does the 1 through 8, which I just learned this concept yesterday, so I got to readjust my thought process. Because I do have a lot of books that do have the numbers 1 through 8 by it, so I think I can. Anyway, it's a challenge. It's just I hadn't found this particular YouTube seller that does it a different way. But it's a matter of clicking with somebody that talks in a language that you can resonate with, and it's all right now. It's still Chinese to me.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean, and it is kind of overcomplicating it, because. Like the chords I learned, I learned the names of them, but it was really a playing by ear sort of thing. And when I fiddled around on the guitar, I never knew what I was playing. I knew what notes sounded good together, and that's sort of how I learned. And then it was later like, whoa, well, you're playing an A, or you're playing in G, or that's a G, or whatever. And I'm like, oh, it is? Okay, cool. So after hearing that so much, I've learned the letters, but it was more of a just... pushing the note until I found the one that it sounded like it was playing in the music, and I'm like, oh, well, that's that note,
Well, it was a step forward, just me spending time with it, because that's just doing it, just making yourself do it is and I think I tried to do lessons, but I got on a call list, but nobody ever called me, so I figured, you know what, this is you know how my mouth is. I talk about everything all the time because I just that way.
Mm-hmm.
So because I really believe I'm on a mission to, and the subject of cancer always comes up, but it's because it's a good thing. I want to tell good things, you know, not to be afraid of it kind of deal. But I think that word cancer makes people not want to be around you. So, who wants to do piano lessons with a cancer person? So that's
It's
just
like you've got the plague or something. And what do you think that is? What do you think that is? Because I mean, both my parents had it, so I didn't. It wasn't like it wasn't like that. But I guess I don't know. I guess it's one thing about getting too close to someone.
People feel bad for you. It puts a bad connotation in the air. You know, it puts a. You know, I remember before I had cancer, when you would introduce somebody and you heard that they had cancer, your heart aches immediately for them because you feel afraid that they're dying right there in front of you, especially when they're told they're going to die in a year, you know. So I understand that, but that's where I want to get that bridge. In my card today, my drawing was that it says you are a rainbow bridge, and I want to be the rainbow bridge. I want to help bridge in between you have cancer and then your choices to survive and how you could pick them to where everybody's happy and that you have a quality of life in the final years that you have. And they could be many, many years, you know, but it's the, well, what's difficult about that on my part is being an empath is me trying to overcompensate for everyone else because when they feel bad for me, I feel bad. I feel their pain and I feel my pain. So it's a fear catch-22 that, and I try to erase as much as I can. And what I do is I talk everybody away from me. And I get that. I do it myself. I do it myself. And someday I'm going to grow up and be different. As soon as I can learn how to play the piano, that's all I'm going to do, and that's it.
And you can let the music talk for you, right?
That's right. That's right. I've decided.
You know, Ronnie's probably right. She says fear of being reminded of mortality. That's probably a good thing because nobody likes to think about death. You know, and I guess that's sort of a reminder that, because, you know, we're all going to die. The death rate is 1 per person unless we ascend or do something else.
Well, you know, to me, that song about living every day as if it's your last. I mean, the mortality or the tap on the shoulder, all that stuff means make the best of every day you have left. That's what you're supposed to do anyway, if you have cancer or not.
Absolutely, yeah.
Look at the world as if it's the best day. Not like it's the last day, but it's anyway. I won't go on. I can go on forever about that. But things I feel like they're moving forward. I'm going to tell you something about. Well, I think I can because we're all grown up. I was blessed to see a physician here in Stillwater that has accepted me as a PCP. But here's the part that I'm going to excuse me for if this is too adult for some of us because it's too adult for me, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because it's a part of life. But one of the ailments, and I've got bukus of them, but the one that has never been addressed because it's not important to anybody but me because I'm 63, and and I have had a hysterectomy at age 28, and I have a fallen bladder. And in 2008, they wanted to do that bladder sling where they stitch it back up where it's supposed to be. But at the same time, I needed to do that fundoplasty because I had severe acid reflux. So I opted the acid reflux operation first. And that's when they cut my stomach, and that's when I died, and blah, blah, blah. That's when my trauma began, was at that time. But that's 10 years ago how I've had this fallen bladder.
22 near-death experiences, right? Just to remind you yours. Yeah.
Yes. And I will write a story about all that because it's too bizarre to believe. But all you have to do is open up my Medicare file, and you would know it's the truth. But anyway, back to my current event is the fact that I need this, and after having the mercury removed, I feel safer to have a surgery, because with the root canals and the poisoning, I know my body would not endure any kind of surgery. But now the incontinence is a very embarrassing form of life, so I would like to fix that defect. And but I go to the doctor, this was just last week, he won't even refer me to a gynecologist because of my having cancer. I'm high risk. But he is sending me to physical therapy because there are new working in the physical therapy world, supposedly, for the abdominal wall and the pelvic wall to help build that back up. But and so I did have that visit. That woman there was super. There is hope in that area. What she can work with me at, I may not need a surgery, which I don't want a surgery at all, but I do want to not have this problem. So, but that part, the catch-22 is that they won't even refer me to a gynecologist because of the cancer, and they won't do surgery on anything else. And then if I don't agree to do chemotherapy, then and oncology rules my care. But the best thing, it is a catch-22, and I don't know how to walk through it other than the next 12 weeks I'll be doing physical therapy to see if I can't improve that area of my life, and then they'll determine if they'll refer me to gynecology or not. But
I think physical therapy is definitely the way to go if you can at least try that first. Jane's saying her sister had that operation and it has been trouble ever since. So, and I've regretted every surgery I've had. Well, the first one was an appendectomy that they gave me when I had a urinary tract infection, so I didn't even really need that surgery. And then the other one was where they put the mesh in near your pelvic bone for your an inguinal hernia. So I had that surgery, and that's just been a nightmare. I wish I would have just. And the problem I was having before I got that surgery, I'm still having. So, which is sort of this popping in my lower abdominal area when I cough. And they told me, well, that you've got a hernia. And they did all these tests, and yeah, you got a hernia. We need to operate. And then I get out of there, and I still cough, and I feel a pop in my stomach, and I'm like, it's still doing it. What did you guys do? You know, so yeah, I regret all of the surgeries I had. I'm not saying that's just my experience with them. You know.
I totally agree. And like I said, that is the last resort. I didn't even know they had this option, which that's where I'm blessed that this doctor referred me that direction. And then he would be open to help me further if I take step one, which I would prefer step one holistically, being able to repair everything. But with the new CBD oils that I'm taking, which is Ignite, which is a stem cell enhancer, I believe that it's all going to heal. And with the getting the mercury out and the supplements I'm on, I see light at the end of the tunnel. I know it's going to happen. It's just getting the rest of the way and figuring out what my role is. I know I've planted a seed with the Kepler report, and that's not much else I can do other than continuously send it out to as many people as I can. And like I have sent it all to an attorney in Kansas that I'm waiting to, and this is supposedly the out of the, when I went to an attorney here in Stillwater, he looked it up and he only found 2 attorneys in the United States that dealt with HIPAA. And that was one in Kansas, and one was in New York City. And so anyway, I did mail everything to Kansas in case they would look at it. I would be closer to get there. But if it's supposed to go somewhere, well, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I know I just done what I could do, and hopefully it'll make a difference someday. But I continuously will always believe God has a plan for me, and as long as I just be patient and wait for it and do the best I can each day, because every day is a struggle to get through. But I'll get there somehow.
Well, think of all the work you've done, you know? Think of the fact that you're still here breathing and talking, you know, is,
Well, yeah.
you know, a testimony in and of itself, really.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I hope it has some kind of purpose. I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to get off here so someone else can share their thoughts. And I really love you very much, Shane, and I love your mission, and I love your people that's in your groups. And I really, they resonate, they inspire me, and I encourage you to stay on your journey.
Well, thank you, Carrie. And you inspire me, too. When I see all the work you put into that and just the drive you have, I always feel inspired by all you've done. And this is our group, you know. It might be at my channel, but it's, you know, we're all one. Like, you know, and that's what I mean, Sonny. Like, we're all an equal one. We all have our individuality, but we are of one mind where we just want a better place and more loving place, and just the fact that we have each other's company is huge in and of itself. So thank you, Carrie, for calling in and sharing. And
You bet. I'll hopefully have some good news someday soon. Well, every day's good news. It is. It's all good. It would have been great if I was saying, hey, I won $500,000. You want to share? I would have. I was already taking us on trips, Shane. We're going to that Florida retreat. Anyway, you have a good one. You take care.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's go.
You're listening to The Love Street.
Unbiased and on the fence.
All right. In case you guys didn't see it in the chat, we have Rita and Tanya, our VQH session winners. And of course, Christy Williams from the first hour. I will send you all emails and we'll come up with a time to schedule that in. Jolie as well, we will work something out. And because you were just behind Tanya. I mean, if it weren't for the fact that you both emailed in at 8:39 my time, but you were on top of Tanya, so yours came in a little bit later. But we can still work something out. And I don't know, did Marsha leave? We could probably work something out at some point. And thank you, Jane. I appreciate that. 2020 vision. You know, somebody said that. It might have been, was that Brandon Avalon? 2020. He might have said it off the air, but, you know, that really got me thinking. I'm like, oh, 2020 vision. You know, I know it's not perfect vision, but it's passing the test, right? So I think 2020 will be a huge year. I tell you what, 2017, I sort of woke up. 2018 was the best year of my life. 2019 is shaping up to be, it's going to be the best year of my life. And I think we can continue on just like this, and each and every year will be the best year of my life moving forward. We'll just step up. And a lot of that is just shifting your perspective, looking within instead of looking outside, and realizing that, oh, everything you need is inside. I don't need any of that. You know, and I'm going back to what Sonny said about just all these rabbit holes and stuff. I'm getting to a point where I see them all as, you know, they can be a wake-up call to something more going on, but then you can get stuck in them. They can become a distraction. Any of the wake-up calls. So many people wake up to realizing, and that's sort of what pulled me into my dark night of the soul. I got stuck in that rabbit hole too long, and it just pulls you down. You get depressed. You're like, well, I'm never going to find the answers I'm looking for. But once you've been in so many rabbit holes, you realize that the reason it's a rabbit hole is because you won't ever find any kind of definitive answer in it. And the answers aren't in those holes. Those answers are within you. And you just have to go within. And then once you realize going within, just being present in the moment, and just breathing in that bliss that's always there, that love that's always there, and all of that other stuff you realize becomes distractions to keep you from going within. It keeps you always searching, going in another rabbit hole. So that's sort of where I'm at right now. And that's just me. You know, if you're somewhere else, that's cool. I'm judging you. I'm just kind of saying what I've sort of come to realize. And, you know, that's so many of those other things that we come across are just reasons to divide, reasons to say us versus them. And, yeah, so even the Mandela effect, you know, it's hard to see that and then not make that distinction between those who see it and those who don't. But I feel like a lot of people just haven't even taken the time to look at it long enough. You know, if they had really gone down that list and really gone and, you know, maybe they've been up in the torch of the Statue of Liberty and, you know, and according to reality right now, you were never allowed to go in the torch, but maybe they've been there and they don't know about that. There's so many little things. There's tens of thousands. Maybe they remember the heart being on the left side of the body and now it's in the center. There's so many things, you guys, that, and I think people just aren't looking. So I feel like people could see it if they would look long and hard enough at it, because it's not really a memory thing. It's like, I always use the eye color thing. How many of you would forget your eye color? Would you wake up one day and I've got brown eyes? If I looked in the mirror and it would be blue eyes, it wouldn't be like, do I remember blue or do I remember brown? It's not a memory thing. There's just some things you know. You know, I know my birth date. It's not a memory thing. It's just, I've said it over and over again so many times. I know it's 3/30/74. So it's, you know, I might forget how old I am because it changes every year and I have to do the math, but I never forget my actual birth date, you know, the year. And so, yeah, it's a lot of these things. And like the thinker statue for me wasn't a memory thing. It's just, I saw it that way so many times. And I can even tell you how the little animation changed at the beginning of Mr. Wizard's World. I'm like, wow, because I'd watched it so many times. I adored that statue. My mom got it for me at a garage sale, and then my favorite show ended up having it in the opening sequence. And so I've seen that statue so many times and so many things that were so close to me. I wish I still had that statue, because if I was actually holding that statue and looking at it, that would just be mind-blowing to see. It's different than how I remembered it when I was a little kid trying to draw it and the arm looked all jacked up and stuff, and I got aggravated. But all those were little memory pegs that things actually are changing. Okay, I'm rambling on. There might be another caller, and I'm not even checking here. All right. Okay, so, hey, Go-Kart Bob. Let's see here. I'm going to take a quick little break and be right back. Phone lines are open. I'll be with you if you call in. Yes, I can hear you. Let me... There we go. All right. Okay, we got you there. Is that... I'm hearing a little bit of... Is it the echo in the background, maybe?
Oh, yeah, I'm in the car.
Oh, okay.
My girls, they're talking, and probably hear road noise.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I can hear you good, though.
Sorry.
No problem. So you're driving right now?
I'm riding.
Ah, riding, okay.
Yeah, I'm riding. We're headed to south. We're headed south.
Where are you at again? What part of the country?
We're in Alabama.
Alabama?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. You know, it's so funny. When I was a kid, we were going from St. Louis down to the Gulf and the Panhandle of Florida, like Panama City or something. And I was right. It was me and my brother. He's 9 years older than me, and he blows through this red light. He was just, I guess, hypnotized by the highway or something. We get off to get gas or something. He blows through this red light, and I'm like, dude, you just ran a red light. And then a cop pulls in behind us, and he pulls us over. I don't know where we're at, what city or anything, right? And the cop comes up, and I didn't recognize what he was saying because of his accent. But he goes, you ever been in Mobile? And I thought he was saying, have you ever been immobile, like not able to walk? And luckily the answer was the same, but it was funny, that, here I'm 15 years old, he's asking for ID, and I'm like, I don't have a driver's license or anything. You ever been in Mobile? So, anyway, that's what I always think about when I hear Alabama.
Oh, you talking about Mobile, Alabama?
Yeah.
Mobile. It's pretty funny. Well, I don't know what I'm going to talk about.
So how close are you to the Gulf there?
Well, we're headed to we're in North Alabama, is where I live.
Oh, okay.
We're actually headed down towards South Alabama to meet up with some friends. My daughters are going to Panama City, like you just said you were on your way to. So.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, as a kid, it was like a different world going down there and seeing all that water.
Oh, yeah. We went just about every year when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to live close enough to drive.
There. Yeah, we went there, Opryland in Nashville, because that was just a couple hours away.
Yeah. I drive nearly, I don't know, close to 4 hours just to get to Broken Bow Lake. I love to go down there. And well, people are starting to come out with their boats and stuff. It's not quite the place that it was when it was colder, but it's still great. I can still get off by myself and enjoy nature.
So are you in Oklahoma now?
Yeah, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay. I never can remember. I can't remember if it was Oregon or Oklahoma. I can just always remember like it starts with an O.
Right.
But let's see. That so far tonight's show's been so good. It's like I love it. I listen. Usually I don't even listen to it live because we're busy. And tonight I was in the car, so I was able to listen. But I keep losing service, like in different spots. You get in bad spots, and like I got a jetpack, so I lose my internet service. And I was a little behind.
Yeah.
But I kept wanting to like go forward, but it was also good. I couldn't even fast forward. I was like, I wanted to hear it all. So.
Right. Yeah, it's like that. I saw Dustin chiming in on something we said a while ago, and I'm like, oh, he's back a little bit. I turn it on to where people can back it up and re-listen to something. In case somebody says the name of a book or something, I like them to be able to back it up and listen to it. Because if you're at your computer, if you're on your phone, I don't know if you guys know this, is a little tip. You can double tap on the left edge of it, and it will go back 5 or 10 seconds, depending on the device. Or you can you can hit the little arrow keys on your keyboard if you're on your computer, and just, as long as the video is selected and you're not typing or something.
Yeah, I usually go forward a few seconds, like if I'm behind after it stops and buffers a little bit, I can go forward, but I didn't want to do that because...
Oh, right. Yeah, you can go forward, too.
I was listening, I was going to miss something, and I was like, so I'm behind, but kept listening. It never got to a point where it wasn't something I wanted to hear. But what you were talking about earlier, and I was saying this in the chat. Okay, I've read some of the Gnostic Gospels. I read the book, The Gnostic Gospels, and then I went online and looked up some of that stuff. But I don't remember reading that story about the fish.
Mm-hmm.
But in that, and I put in there, in the Michael Jackson book that was written in '94, Dance in the Dream,
Mm-hmm.
there's a short story, and it's called The Fish Who Was Thirsty, or The Little Fish Who Was Thirsty, or something. And it's been so long ago since I read it, but it really reminded me of that when you said that, because he's like, God's telling him to go around and tell all these fish that he's thirsty. And he's like, they're going to think I'm crazy. There's water all around us. But that was like the whole point. Anyway, that was so crazy that you said that, because I was like, that reminds me of that.
I tried to look it up so I could tell you where to find it, and my video I did on it came up. So if you type Parable of the Fishes in, you will actually find, and then that actually I think has a link. I don't know if I was figuring out how to do that yet back then, but okay, yeah. So it's the Parable of the Fishes, and it's in the Lection 57, which instead of a verse, they have lections and then verses or something. But yeah, it comes right out of the Nag Hammadi. I want to say it was either from the Gospel of Truth or the Gospel of the Holy 12 or something along those lines. I'll paste the link in case you guys haven't seen this video. It was June 15th of, wow, one day different. That's tomorrow's date of 2017. It's crazy.
2 years ago, it's tomorrow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really interesting.
I think I had read the Gospel of Mary and the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip. Now, those were in the Gnostic Gospels, the book I was telling you about when y'all could barely hear in lifetime. And it talked about those, but there's a website about the Gnostic Gospels, and there's actually stuff in there about the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, where Jesus talked about the universe. And I haven't read all of it, but I've read parts of it, and it's mind-blowing. I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in there.
So I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about my Michael Jackson thing. In 2003, when that documentary aired, I wasn't a Michael Jackson fan. Like, I mean, I had the Thriller cassette, I think, but I mean, like, I wasn't a huge fan, and really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to what even when the allegations came out in '99, I wasn't, like, paying attention to much of that at all.
Yeah.
But I was watching television, and, like, I got to watching that, and I got madder. The longer I watched it, the madder I got. Like, I was just furious by the time it was over with. I was just like, how could these people... I mean, I just had that sudden knowing that they were just twisting all this and making it something it wasn't. And so I started researching, and for about 3 months, I was just obsessed with researching everything I could find about Michael Jackson. And I found the Dance in the Dream book, which to me was totally mind-blowing, because this stuff that he had written in '94 was just like, it's like stuff we're talking about today. My favorite one is called Are You Listening?
Are You Listening?
A lot of it, like, it's called Are You Listening? And there's actually videos with real pretty music and pictures and the lyrics, but it's just a poem that he wrote, and it's called Are You Listening? And I mean, that was my very favorite of all of them that were in there. And I didn't have the book. I just found it on a website. It was like a MJ Friendship.be or something, and I can't even find that website anymore because it's been so long ago. But they just had a section on there. It was called Fanship Turns to Friendship or something, and there was a section on there on spirituality, and that book was in there and all these poems. And if you look up Are You Listening and you read the words to it, it is just, I just looked it up a couple of nights ago because me and my neighbor got talking about it. And I was like, it's just amazing, because he says, I am the particle, I am the wave, and, all this is just, oh my gosh. I mean, like, I was reading it, I was like, I mean, that was my favorite one when I read it back then. But I even wrote a poem about Michael Jackson in 2003. And it was like, I didn't really write the poem. Like, this came to me faster than I could type it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I was just really that crazy about it. And then they raided Neverland Ranch on my birthday, which really upset me. And, of course, I watched the whole trial. And I just thought that, well, this was just a wake-up call for me about the media. Because after that was all over with, it was like I didn't watch CNN, I didn't watch Fox, I didn't watch anybody because I didn't believe any of them. It was just like, I don't believe any of it. They're all liars. It's all a bunch of lies. And so that was, to me, I just thought that was the reason that I had that sudden knowing, so I would research. And I mean, it's so weird how things happen, and we kind of go off on this little tangent, and then we learn so much, and it's almost like things happen that way for a reason.
Yeah, and I mean, just you saying that right now, I gotta chime in and tell you how synchronistic this is. That I did a BQH for someone today, and they actually heard that line that you said. Are you listening? So I gotta.
Are you listening?
That could be
you
an
gotta
answer
look it up.
to. That could be an answer to something that came up in someone's session today. So I will let her know. And,
it's beautiful. I mean, I would pull it up and read it to you right now, but I'm on my phone. The girls have the iPads back in the back seat, so I'm not able to do it. But when you read it, you're going to be like, holy cow. I mean, it blew my mind in 2003 that he wrote this in 94. And so, I mean, I knew right then, I was like, this dude is highly enlightened. I mean, there's several of them.
Have you ever seen the one, the video and the song called "Can You Feel It"?
Oh yeah, I sent that to you. Because y'all kept
okay.
talking about it, and that song got stuck in my head way before the Amazon commercial. And when you said it had got stuck in your head that day, I was like, okay, this is cool, because it was stuck in my head one morning, and I looked it up, and the same thing happened with the song "The Spirit in the Sky" by Norman Greenbaum.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do that. I wake up in the morning and I get like these things are stuck in my head, and I'll go look it up and like look at the lyrics and be like, well, why was this in my head? You know, what is the deal with this?
Yeah.
But that one, I actually emailed him, and I was like, because when I found this website, I mean, that's what I do. Like, I'll get these little things, and I know it's not just like a normal thing. You know, you just know. Mm-hmm. So I looked up the lyrics, and I was like, listened to the song a few times, and I found this website, and there was a birthday party, a big banner that showed a birthday party for him on my birthday. And I was like, I wonder if he's got the same birthday as me, because I don't have hardly anybody that does, that I know. And so I looked, and like it's either the day before or the day after my birthday. Nobody that I know personally. I think I know one person that has my birthday. But anyway. So I just emailed him and just asked him, was that his birthday? And he said no, that his birthday was a couple of days later. They were just having a party on that day. But he answered me. He's like my dad's age. He was born the same year as my dad. And I thought, wouldn't that be pretty cool if he's born the same year as my dad but born on my birthday?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be something kind of synchronistic? But he wasn't born on my birthday. But he's in his 70s. That was like his only big hit. But, you know, it's huge. I think it was in like the Forrest Gump, I don't know if it was in the Forrest Gump soundtrack, but it's one of those type songs, you know.
Right.
And Spirit in the Sky, I'm going to the Spirit in the Sky.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was pretty cool. So I do that with songs and music. And I think music, I've heard you talk about the messages that we get, or how it kind of like, it's like a way to get messages through to it.
Right,
so I've always thought that. There'll be times when for months on end it's like I can turn the radio on and there's a song but it's weird when it just comes to you in your head like that when you're not even listening to anything.
Yeah, and I hadn't heard that song. I think you had sent me the video. Sherry had sent me the video, but it's like I hadn't heard it since the 80s or whatever, so it shouldn't have been in my head like that. And then when I was like, wait a minute, is that Michael Jackson song? I got the truth bumps, or the quiver in the liver, like April says.
Yeah.
And then I knew it was like,
And
yeah, that's the confirmation. You know?
And I think it's talking about the energy. Like, can you feel it?
Yeah,
Like,
and the video's
can
really
you feel
cool because it's all about the energy. And there's this rainbow bridge at one point. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did
Yeah,
we talk about the rainbow bridge back then?
And the aliens, it's like aliens
Yeah.
are like appearing, you know, and then they're sprinkling
Yeah.
that gold dust all over
Yep.
everybody.
Yeah.
And then everybody wakes up. You realize everybody wakes up and starts holding hands, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this
Yeah.
this is
It's
crazy.
like the event.
That was
It's like an
eighth
event
grade.
video. That really makes you
That
feel
was
like you're late to the party, doesn't it? It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, because I was like, this, oh my gosh. And so, the more I thought about that, I was like, that's crazy. I mean, that's crazy because I hadn't seen that video in
Yeah.
years until I sent you a video that didn't have all that stuff because I remembered seeing the video and it having all the sound effects and you couldn't really understand the words. So I
Right.
sent you one that didn't have it, and then like look at the lyrics, and then you saw that one. So I went and watched it after you said the Rainbow Bridge. I thought, well, I need to go watch this again.
Yeah.
And when I watched it, I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And so it is. And another thing, I don't know why this just popped in my head, but I always thought it was so cool how Prince died in an elevator. Because my favorite song by him was Let's Go Crazy. And, it starts, Dearly Beloved, we're gathered here today to get through this thing called life.
Yeah.
Electric World Life, or anyway. But then he says, and if the elevator tries to bring you down, go crazy, punch a higher floor. But then he died in the elevator. I mean, or they found him in the elevator, and I was like, just nobody.
Oh, they did? I didn't know that.
See how, yes, they found him in the elevator. I was just like,
That's
oh my
trippy.
God. Like, he wrote this song, and it's like, it was so prophetic, because it's almost like, I don't know, that kind of stuff just blows my mind.
Yeah. Wow. That's really wild. Gosh. I got to look more into that.
Yeah.
I had no idea. So that's a real trip. But yeah, you can really see why when you get to looking at some of these artists. I mean, when you're kind of like raised like I was raised, it's hard to see them as, well, they're not enlightened. They're in the music scene and they're worshiping the devil or serving the devil. And that's kind of how I was raised. If you weren't in church, everybody else is going to hell and they're working for the devil. But it's really not like that. When you get out, you can really see that everybody's doing, for the most part, people are doing what they feel in their heart they should be doing, or whether it's music or whatever it is. And
yeah, I think like that poem I wrote, in that documentary, Michael said they asked him how he writes his music. He did it. He got up in his climbing tree and he did all this to write a lot of these songs. And he said, but it comes from above.
right.
Well, that's what he said. And if they don't give it to me, they'll give it to Prince.
Right.
I was like, what? So when I wrote that poem, it was the same type of thing. It was like, it was coming to me so fast that I'm not a very good talker. And the lyrics or whatever, this poem. And it was, I'm not going to say it was like this wondrous thing, but it was rhyming and it was all coming to me so fast. And it made so much sense. It was called Who Is This Man? And it was like, I've got a PowerPoint thing where I put pictures of him in it, but it was like, who is this man that people are pretty much, the people are gaga over? Just like us. That's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah.
And so it was just, I'll have to pull that out. I put a video on my channel the other day, first time in almost 2 years, and I'm working on the first part of that session because in that session, it was where this client by herself was telling me, you need to be putting this stuff on the internet, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been almost 2 years ago. But it takes time, like, to take an audio and put pictures with it. And, I've got 2 little girls. They're in school, and I was working, and, I got all this going on. So I had put that one video on there of back in October of 2017, and that's the only one I'd ever put on there.
Yeah.
So I think you inspired me, and, some of the people in the chat, and I'm like, I have got so much cool information in some of these sessions that I had a little website blog, and I would like just type up, transcribe some of it and put it on there if it was about energy or whatever. But I didn't have very many people following my website, so I was just like, well, what's the use? That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, yeah. They've got programs now that will do it. Like you can put the music, you can put the pictures or a folder, and it will just do it all for you, and then you just render it out now. I think it was Carrie and I that were looking at that, and you just decide how long you want each picture to show up. So they've really streamlined it a lot, but it still is a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got I tried to do it on my phone because on my phone I can actually just do it all. I can do it on the computer. I have to go in and edit my audio on my computer program that my Sony recorder puts it into. I can take out parts, like these long pauses, or try to shorten it just a little, or any personal stuff I take out. And but it's it's an audio, not a video, so you have to put a picture. And the things I found from my phone, once I get it transferred over into my phone, is the longest duration for a picture can be 10 seconds. So you have to copy it if you want it to just be pictures and changing pictures.
Right.
And I couldn't get it to just make it the same picture unless I just wanted to copy the whole picture for an hour. And I thought, well, I'll just do different pictures and do 5 minutes on a picture. But it's been a long time since I've fooled with the computer and done anything like that. I used to do a lot of stuff like that on the computer, but it's been so long that I'm having to relearn it all.
Yeah.
And then uploading the video takes so long.
Yeah, it does.
I've got a jetpack.
Even if you have a fast computer, it's still, you can have fast everything and there's still time, yeah.
I think when I uploaded that one, it took 12 hours. But I've got this little jetpack at my house that, it's not very fast. It's not slow, but it's not very fast. But then I could go to my mom's and it's a lot faster. So I done part of it, let it upload at my house overnight, and then took it to my mom's and finished it, and then put it on there. But I'm working on the first part of that session where it's the 2 lives and the higher stuff said about why she saw the lives, and because I kind of hate to just put part of a session, but it was an hour just the part that I put. So
right,
and it takes so long to upload them. But I'll figure it all out. I'll get it all figured out and get it going. But
yeah, I have the same issue. I've got, when I record my BQH sessions, it's actually recording it as a video, even though there's no video, and then I have to change it in MP3, and it's a real big hassle. But that's the only way I know to be able to control my volume and the volume of the person, the hypno T, if you will, and keep them separate. Because sometimes they get quiet, so I need that ability. Otherwise, the volume would I'd be stuck with however it is. So.
I hope I'm not losing you because you're breaking up.
Oh.
Maybe getting in a bad spot. Okay, now I can hear you.
I think I hear the expansion joints on the highway.
Oh yeah. And when it did that earlier, I was listening into your show, and I was going to raise my hand when you got through talking, and it just started breaking up, and then just went beep and cut me off, and I was like, well, we're almost to Birmingham. We should have some pretty good signal, but we're on the kind of the smaller towns. We don't have as many towers, and
yeah.
But if I get cut off, I'll try to call back if it's not time for the show to be over.
Yeah, we got a little bit, about 20 minutes. Let's see. So Birmingham. I wonder if Amanda, do you know the singer Amanda Marshall?
Who?
Amanda Marshall?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she has that song Birmingham, and it just reminded me of her. I'm like, I bet she's from there. So I figured you might know her. Love their music.
The name is familiar. Does she
Yeah.
come into the chat?
No. She's a singer from I guess she's from Alabama.
Amanda Marshall. I don't
Marshall,
know.
yeah. Like U.S. Marshals, Amanda Marshall.
Yeah, sounds familiar. I know the guy that played in Sling Blade, the little boy. You know, he's in a lot. He's like in some of those BSIs or something. I don't even know what, but you know, he's from down around Birmingham. Lipid Black.
Yeah, I don't know his name. I can't even think of him. I like the way you talk too.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, a lot of actors can't fake this accent. They just can't do it.
Right.
So if you get somebody that's from here and put them out there, it's just so real. You can't.
Right.
Even if they can't act very good, if they can speak in this accent, it's pretty believable.
Yeah. Yeah, exciting stuff.
And like I said, I think I told you the last time I had a voice and diction class in college, and he was like, "There's no help for you." You know, they try to teach you to have that general, you know, not generic, like, you know, Tom Brokaw, where you can't really tell where you're from. He was like, "There's no help." He said, "I think you got the strongest country Southern accent I've ever heard. You're stuck with it."
That's funny because I always
Right.
picture myself as having that generic, you can't tell where you're from voice. But everywhere I went, everybody was like, "Where are you from? You're not around from around here, are you?" And stuff. And I was like, "Oh no, St. Louis." You know.
Yeah.
But even out, you know, the outskirts, people talk real country out there. Like you get out in the Festus, Missouri, or 45 minutes away from St. Louis, and they sound just like they're from Tulsa or anywhere else. You know.
Yeah. Now it's weird because like people from Florida sound a lot like they're from up north. Some of them sound like they get a little bit of a northern accent.
Yeah.
I don't really know why that is, unless it's because all the snowbirds moved down there.
Yeah.
In the winter, you know, the snowbirds when they retire, they move to Florida, and I guess
they bring the
pick up
accent
that
with them.
accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. All right. Well, I think Bob's calling in here, and we will. Are you done with? Did you finish the course? I can't remember.
I did. I finished it. I think it was like the 23rd of May, and I've done a session, but I'm really I haven't done any online sessions, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin, one of my favorite ones to do a session with, she moved away to another state, and it's so funny because we've tried to get together to do sessions over the past year or so, and like every time she's going to come to my house or I'm going to go to her house, something happens.
Uh-huh.
And she said, "This is just a sign we're supposed to do this online."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, but you know, it's always just but whatever." So I finally told her, I said, "Well, I think I'm getting the message. I think I need to take this HQH course." I said, "I know I can do 2 HHC sessions and do them online, but I really want to take this course because, first of all, because Candace does it. I just love Candace. I just love Candace. Oh my gosh, I just cry when I listen to her tell her story. I can't help it."
Did you see her in the chat earlier?
No, I didn't see her in there earlier.
Oh, she was in there as Quantum. What's her?
Quantum Healers.
Gosh, I can't even remember what it's. Quantum Healers, I think.
Yeah, Quantum Healers.
Yeah, that was
I
earlier.
didn't see her.
Yeah, she was here earlier on.
I love her. I
yeah,
actually
me
met
too.
her in Sarasota a couple of years ago. We did the M5D conference, and I got to meet her, and that was amazing.
Yeah, I'm trying to get her to come to East City and visit with us because I think she's going to be traveling around that time. I think she's like going to be in that area, like in the Portland area anyway, like a week or two before that. So we're just kind of missing each other. But if she stays longer, then she might be able to stop by and visit with us. But yeah, that's just so awesome to be so close to someone that was so close to Dolores Cannon, you know. And Candace is awesome herself, but just to have that.
Oh, she is amazing.
Yeah.
She is So, I mean, I'm going to just quit. But anyway, she's amazing. But that's one reason that I wanted to take the course is because that she had done it. And because I was thinking, well, I could do it on my assessor, but I'm not really sure the setup and all that. So I went ahead and took it, and I took my time with it now. It took me a couple of weeks, but I tried to, like, really take my time with it. I mean, like, the first day, like, I started putting together my little notebook because there was so much information. I was so excited over the amount of documents.
Yeah.
And I was just like, so I just started putting it together and just sort of took my time with it. And I really, really enjoyed taking that course. And
Me
I'm
too.
excited about
Did you go through a lot of it
using all the new
twice?
stuff.
There was a few times I was like, I've got to watch that again. That was so packed full of information. I just would rewatch it again because I didn't want to miss anything, and I'd pick up things that I didn't get the first time. So, yeah, I've been wanting to go back and revisit some parts of it now that I've had experience with it, and because it seems to be easier to learn more once you're familiar with it. So I think it'll be good to revisit it.
Yeah, because like you'll come across something that she talked about, but you don't know until you do it, and then you come across it in real life, and then you're like, oh, I got to go listen to that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean that.
But I was impressed at all the documents, like what you're talking about. There's like a wealth of information. I'm like, man, just these documents alone, without the course and the videos, is worth the money, you know, because it's cheap, you know. $333 isn't a lot for a course.
Oh yeah, because I think it was like 900 or 1,000 for the QHHT when I took it back in 2016.
Yeah.
And I could not quit watching those videos. Like, I didn't know when I was going to find time to watch 36 or 39 hours of classes, you know, and I'd done it in a week. I think it was like 8 days, but I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning watching, which I can watch Dolores Cannon all day, every day, still.
Yep.
Same videos I've already seen, I can just sit and watch them over and over and over.
Yeah.
But when that was going on, I was working, and I would look at my watch for my phone, and I'd be like, I've got to be up in 3 hours. Why am I still sitting here watching this? But I couldn't stop watching. I mean, it was because it's what I was supposed to do. When I first read the book, The 3 Ways of Volunteers,
and
The New Earth, I mean, this is exactly what you were talking about a while ago with this guy. We're drawn to things we're supposed to be drawn to, and when I first saw the video of her, I wasn't even going to listen to that interview on the Moore Show because it said E.T. because I just, you know, all the negativity about E.T. And when I finally just said, well, I'm just going to listen to it, I was cleaning the house or something, I listened to it, and it was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And then I read the book, The 3 Ways of Volunteers, and like halfway through it, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right here. I mean, I knew it. It took me 3 years to take the course to finally, because I didn't know when I would have time to do it. And then I did it in like a week. So I was just like, but I had been reading her books. During that 3 years, I had read every one of her books.
Yeah.
And then I took the course, and then once I was finished with it, it was exactly 3 years, almost to the day, that I finished the BQH course. So something about the 3s, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Love the synchronicities.
But
Yeah, that's a trip that... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think if I had took the course 3 years earlier, I might have gotten discouraged because where I live, you know, there's not a whole lot of people. I mean, like, I got my friends and family. They were all like, you can practice on me, but none of them knew what the hell we were doing. I mean, they were just like totally oblivious. But the sessions were amazing. I mean, I mean, I had several people that came and drove 3 hours and rented a room that knew what QHHT was and let me do sessions, but most of my sessions were friends or family.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't take nothing in the world for doing them. I know that it says in there not to do that, but I can understand why, because you could get really discouraged. But I think I was supposed to do that, and I like my bond with some of my family members is way better since we did QHHT sessions. I mean, it's amazing.
It really is a cool experience.
Do you feel that like when you do a session with somebody, do you feel that connection, like that closeness afterwards? Like it's weird. I don't even know how to
Yeah,
explain it.
absolutely. No, because it's like you take this journey into another realm with someone, and it's a bonding experience, I feel like.
Yeah.
It really is cool.
I mean, and
just to
people that I've
experience
known
that.
my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, didn't talk over you. But it's people I've known my whole life that, I should have been bonded with already.
Yeah.
and it's a totally different, it's just so, you just, I don't know, it's just a connection that happens.
Yeah. An otherworldly type connection. I mean, you can really feel the supernatural nature in it too, a much deeper connection.
But yeah, it's a really, I mean, I wouldn't trade doing this work for anything in the world. I mean, it's just really, and being able to meet and connect with all the people like Candace, and you, and I mean, just because if Candace hadn't done that interview with you back in January or whenever it was, I would have never known about you or who you were.
Yeah.
And then I went to your channel, and I started just because I was like, I told you, I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to watch all these videos that you've done in the past 2 years.
Right.
So I go, and I start scrolling through them, and I find the video of you and Sherry when she was just sitting in there with her daughter in the living room talking about the Michael Jackson thing, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was just like, oh my gosh. So I watched that one, and I was like, there's like some kind of connection. It's almost like Dolores Cannon. It's almost like he's still working from the other side.
Yeah, exactly. I totally feel like that. He's come up several times. And I'm like, wow, he's really like around doing all this stuff. How's he? And I feel that way about Dolores too. How can they be at so many places at one time? But we're stuck in linear time here, and we just can't understand how they're limitless over there as far as time is concerned.
Oh yeah. We are actually not just living this one life right now too. We're in a lot of different places too. We just don't know it.
Yeah.
And see, that's come up in several of my sessions.
Mm-hmm. We're just the point of consciousness here, but it's one of many, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I've had sessions with people where, if I've done multiple sessions where they would be in a certain time period or whatever, and they'd be in that same time period in another session as a totally different person, and I'd be like, wait a minute. This can't make sense. This cannot be. And so I asked, is this like what Dolores meant by parallel lines?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, yep, that's exactly what it is. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is just so convoluted.
Oh yeah.
Like in her books, I mean, it's really amazing. But I just think there's no way we could grasp it. Like seriously, if we tried to, our mind would just explode if we tried to understand all of it. But I think it's all exactly like it's supposed to be. And everything that's happening is happening exactly like it's supposed to. We get impatient.
Yeah.
But I think it's happening just exactly in the time. And even though this time is a construct or, an illusion, but it's all happening right the way it's supposed to in our little construct of time.
Mm.
So
that's
awesome. I try not to get too. Get too tore up over stuff.
They're bringing up Mandela effects. Do you know the band Warrant by any chance?
The band Warrant?
Yeah, the rock band from the 80s.
W-A-R-R-A-N-T, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, people remember it as being E-N-T instead of A-N-T.
No, I think it was A&T. I'm pretty sure it was A&T.
Yeah, and that would have been my first guess, but when I saw it with the E&T, it looked familiar, and that's how I have a lot of my Mandela effects are like that. It's like, well, they both seem familiar to me, or neither look right,
Well, I think you did one that was like 50 Mandela effects.
Yeah.
50, and I watched that, and I'm telling you, it wasn't but like half of it. That seemed like it had changed to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That to me that's weird, but I just think that it's enough of it that people see it and say, "Wait a minute." You know what I'm saying? Like, just wait a minute. There might be something to this.
That's why I went with the 50, because it was like the nuclear option for me. It's like, okay, if I hit up 50, one of these is bound to like get somebody. They're bound to say, no, Looney Tunes was definitely this way, and then, and then they get it wrong, and then they look into it, and then it wakes them up. So that's why I did that one. Only about a dozen of them are 100%ers for me. The other ones, I'm like, it seems like a change, but I don't know for sure. But they were popular enough, I brought them up.
Yeah. And the whole, let's see, there's something that you just said, the whole jumping. I don't think we're jumping timelines. I just think there's just little things changing.
Yeah. It's like our one reality is getting edited.
Yeah, just to show us that, there's more to it. You just better keep your eyes open. There's more.
Yeah.
Pay attention. But that's
awesome, Joey.
Just awesome. But I'll let you get off here. It's almost 10. I know you need to go get shut down.
All right. Yeah, and we will talk about a session. I will just email
you.
And we'll figure something out.
All right. I got to play with my Zoom video yesterday. That's the first time I've played with my Zoom app.
You played with what video?
I think the Zoom video, the Zoom meeting app.
Oh, okay, yeah, Zoom.
Yeah. I've actually went to some of the QHHT webinars and was just invited and used the code and went in on my computer, but I put it on my phone and I thought, I got to play around with this, figure out how this works. So this probably changed over the past few years, and but we'll get it figured out.
Yeah, I do use Zoom from time to time, but when I do my sessions, I don't do video. I just do audio. I feel like it.
But it records. But it records it as. Why does it record it as a video?
Because I record with my broadcast software, and it records as a video. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's just, and then it has its own volume control for each thing. That's why I use it. And then I have to put it in my program and export it as an MP3. Matter of fact, that's why I was late, because my computer wouldn't export a BQH session right for me, and I got stuck trying to figure that out, but it ended up working.
Okay, well, I decided to try the Zoom video and just fool with it to see about doing it in videos. Because, I always just record audio with a QHHT with my digital recorder, and it works really well, but I didn't know about doing it online. If you do you just do it over the phone, or do you do it online and do that?
Oh, the way I do it is I call their phone from my computer using Google Voice, which is like a phone app. It's like Google Hangouts, but you can dial a phone number. And then once it's coming through my computer, that makes it easier to record it with recording software on the computer, Even the program I'm using is free. It's called OBS, and you can download it for free. And it's like, it's ready to use right out the box for doing what I'm talking about here with that. You wouldn't even have to figure it out. You just basically figure out what file or what folder the file's going to go in is the only thing you got to do, and then just start recording.
But that's what you use for all of your stuff, too?
Yeah, that's what I use for my live stream and everything, too. Yeah.
Well, it works really good, and it sort of reminds me of the Art Bell show. I used to listen to that.
Oh, yeah, I love Art Bell.
Back,
yeah, Coast
like in
to
the
Coast.
90s.
Yeah.
I loved Art Bell.
Yeah.
And it's weird, though, because, like, back then, to me, that kind of stuff, was far out there, but I like listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, I'm thinking, God, that stuff I listened to back in the 90s, like I'm listening to people talk about it every day now, and it's not just some radio show that's on an AM station, that nobody even knows about.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
it's not too fringe anymore like it used to be. It used to be kind of taboo even to like, oh, you listen to that weird overnight show, huh? You know, where they talk about UFOs and abductions and all this crazy stuff, you know. But now it's like becoming more, you know, acceptable, I guess.
I think the energy, everything changing the way it is, has something to do with it. I think it's all happening just like it's supposed to be happening. I mean, I really do.
When you look up the word apocalypse, and it says it's a revealing, like the veil's dropping or something, and you know that word's been associated with, you know, the end of the world and cataclysms and things like that. But that word really just means the revealing or the unveiling. So this really is an apocalypse, and I think that's what we're seeing. The veil's coming down, and you know we're starting to see, as Jesus said, the things whispered in the inner rooms will be shouted from the rooftops, and that's really what we're seeing. All the truth coming out, you know.
Yeah, I didn't come from a Christian, like my parents didn't go to church, but I went with my grandparents, and like I read the Bible all the way through twice when I was a young teenager. But and Daniel, what you were talking about the book, Daniel, and I was like, Daniel was my favorite book, and then somebody in the chat said that one of the parts of it was they thought was about Michael Jackson. I was like, I can go back and read that.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Because for some reason that one was my favorite. I don't remember why, but there was something about that whole book that was my favorite book of the Bible. But
yeah,
I go back and read it, and I probably know why that was my favorite. But
definitely one of my favorites too. It's got a lot of great stories in it.
I would go to church and I would wonder, like I'd be like, no, that's not the God I know. You know, the stuff they would teach, and I didn't like funerals because that's all they did was, you know, tell you you need to, you know, these people, you know, whoever just died is probably, you know, going to heaven if you want to be with them. You know, and I'm just like, that's just not right. That's just not right. Like, please don't do that in my funeral. But, and I would hear like the preacher come on the radio, and they come to church, and they give that, you know, they give that fear speech, and I would just turn the radio off. I was just like, I cannot listen to that. But it was like I knew. It was like I always knew. And so it just all came full circle, and now here we are.
Yeah. You know, there's been comedians like George Carlin was one. When I was heavily in the church, I was so offended by the things he was saying, right? And I remember him saying, you know, he said something like, come to church, you know, or no, if you don't do this, I'm going to send you to hell. But he loves you, you know, and then I was so angry at him saying that, but I was like, why didn't if I just consider what he was saying, he just made so much sense. But at the time, I was too involved. I was too into it not to be offended, you know. It wasn't my time.
That's a good way to gauge, too, because I've listened to George Carlin recently, and some of the things he says still offend me. And I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I need to think about that a little bit, because I still get offended by some of the stuff he says.
Yeah.
But he was so dead on so many things that now when something offends me, I have to really stop and think about, why is this offending me?
Yeah.
That he's saying this. And so, I mean, I'll listen to some of it and I'll just be like, what is it about that that's so offensive to me and why? So you have to kind of like go soul searching on that. You know, well, what is that? Why is that offending me? Because we're so programmed. That's why we're so programmed from the time, you know, we're born. I mean, I knew how to read when I was 4, so I know I'll come here knowing how to read. And, you know, some of these kids, they come here knowing how to play the piano and they play Mozart or whatever, so I always felt like, and then my first memory was, what am I doing here again? And I remember that. And you tell people that, and they act like you're a leper. I mean, like, it's crazy. I mean, I was little, and, you know, I would tell people, you know, my first memory was of being in my walker and seeing a spider or whatever. I'm like, well, I remember wondering, what am I doing here again, and being scared to death. And I was completely helpless, couldn't do anything. So I had to be either in the nursery or in my crib or something, and I was supposed to remember that. And then, like, I read an Edgar Casey book when I was like 12, and I was blown away. And he said, one day, everybody will be able to do what I do. And that's exactly what we're doing when we're doing these sessions. It's
Yeah.
what he did. He put himself in a trance, and he told people how to heal themselves. He told people that he did life readings and told them that, the reason you're so afraid of cats is because you were thrown to the tiger. You were thrown to the lion.
Right.
Or the reason you're so afraid of elevators is because you died in the elevator
Right.
in this life. But, so those kind of things to me, it's like what Dolores was doing with the past life and the pain and the different things people have that are brought forward as cellular memory. I mean, he was doing this in the 40s.
Yeah.
But he was just putting himself in that trance, speaking in languages that he couldn't even speak, and telling people, But he said, one day, everybody will be able to do this. And I never forgot that part. I never forgot that. And when I read that book by Dolores Cannon, I was like, this is what Edgar Casey was talking about.
Yeah.
This is what he was talking about. So,
and that takes me back to Jesus saying that we would do the things he did and greater. I mean, greater than what he did? That's amazing. Think of all the people he fed and people he healed and he raised the dead. And I'd be happy if I could do half of what he did, let alone more,
And but the thing is it's all an individual thing. The person is healing themselves. We're not healing them when we do these sessions.
Right.
They are healing themselves.
We're just like the
And
facilitator. We're just helping out. We're helping them get out of the way, basically.
You're opening them up to that power. You're opening them up to their own power and their own inner thing. And it's just doing a session with somebody. It's the only thing it does is to make them realize that they can connect with their higher self and communicate with their higher self. Then I've done my job.
Yeah.
Because then they can meditate. They can ask the questions, and with practice, they're actually able to get the messages for themselves, and they don't have to look outside themselves for the answers. And that's what I think we're going to, because it's been so much of it's so backwards. It's been so much of you got to seek outside yourself to your preacher, to whoever for help. And then once we realize that it's all right here within us, that's what this is showing people, that it's not, you got to go have a session every month, you can actually meditate and you can connect. And that's why Dolores said only one session was necessary. Now, she did multiple sessions all the time. That's how she wrote her books. But she said only one session is necessary. Once you connect to that higher part of you, that the connection's open. And from then on, you can connect.
Right. Yeah, typically she did stuff for other, like the Nostradamus thing or something, but for that person, they probably, for their own benefit or their own growth, they could probably connect after that first session. So it's just a tool, because I mean, even Jesus healed.
There were 12 people. There were 12 different people that she got that information from, for those Nostradamus books. 12 different people in different parts of the world.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So she was just connected to Nostradamus through these people. But it was 12, like the lady was from Alaska, and she moved back to Alaska, and he told her in a session, don't worry, I'll still be able to give you information. And sure enough, the next person came along, and she started getting this information, and that happened 12 different people. And I think the number 12 is pretty significant there, too.
Yeah.
But,
13 with her,
amazing.
right?
Yeah.
Just like the disciples and Jesus. That's neat.
Yeah. And so I think it's all really cool, and I'm telling you, I don't know near what I want to know, because I'm still looking and researching. It blows my mind to listen to this and hear the stuff people say in chat. That's so helpful to me, because I'll go look this stuff up and I'll be like, oh my gosh. But I think the reason I came here knowing how to read is because I was supposed to be reading. I have read and studied just about every kind of religion that there is, and I'm just always just seeking. And you got to know how to read to look for things. So.
Well, I appreciate you, Jolie. We're all out of time. Oh, it's 10:10.
Okay.
I love the synchronicities.
All right. Okay.
Okay, but yeah, we'll
It
get a
was
whole.
good
We'll
talking to
talk. Yeah, we'll talk about a BQH session and figure out how to schedule that and go from there.
Okay.
All right, lots
Talk
of
to you
love.
later.
Okay, bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
All right, you guys. Thank you to Jolie. And congratulations, of course, to who we have here. Christy Williams. Rita. Good job, Gary, on calling that one. You knew she was going to win. And Tanya. So awesome. Congratulations, you guys. And Jolie, of course, we'll figure something out. Okay. All right, so we'll be back tomorrow night, Eileen and I. And then, of course, Eileen and Ronnie will be joining, hopefully Diane, too. I don't know if she's going to be busy, but hopefully she can join us, Sherry and I, Monday for Paranormal Frequencies, where we discuss their experience with Ray Hernandez's study on UFOs. And I think it'll be a great discussion. I'm going to be pulling up this UFO footage I captured 2 days ago, which I don't know what the heck this is. I've sat on it. I don't think it was a spacecraft, but, you know, I'm kind of in maybe, I don't know, cognitive dissonance, maybe. I don't know what it is. I'll let you guys decide. It is a UFO because I can't tell what it is. I know it wasn't a plane, but it never did any cool maneuvers like I would hope a ship would do. It just kind of floated along at the same altitude. I'm going to pull that up along with some pictures that I got from Jane that are similar, and we'll talk about them and we'll have a good time. So, but tomorrow night's first, Power of 8 at 8. I will see you guys then. Have a good one. Lots of love and light to all of you guys. If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.